No Way Home is finally here, ladies and gentlemen, and our podcast all about Spider-Man is coming your way. I'm going to stop talking. Future me, hit that music. Let's do this. Coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California, in the heart of Uptown Whittier. Keeping Up with the Nerds presents issue number 78. My name is Bryan.
And Nick.
Rene.
Andie and Mandy.
And welcome to the show.
I have a question. When you guys started dating them, did you know that their names rhymed?
No.
Was that like a, guys, when we start dating someone, their name has to rhyme.
And then we're going to have a podcast.
And then we'll have a podcast so that way when it goes off, it sounds cute. It sounds cute.
Yeah.
So, quick little bit of information for our listeners. If you guys are kind of like, well, what the heck? Why are there 5 different voices in my ear? If you guys listen on an audio platform, obviously. Well, we all went to go watch Spider-Man No Way Home on Thursday night, thanks to Nick, who graciously got us the tickets.
Thank you.
True MVP.
Yes.
True MVP. Yeah.
10:45. It was so late.
Some of us only got like 2 hours of sleep and all that. We were all
That
trooped
was
through. So we're all here because we all want to talk about it. We all want to, give you guys our thoughts and opinions and pretty much our reviews of what we thought of this movie. I mean, overall consensus is I think we can all agree that this is a fantastic movie, right?
Fantastic. You could say it was fantastic. Amazing.
You could say
It was pretty
I'm pretty
spectacular.
lame.
It was pretty spectacular.
I
It
would
was
say it was
amazing.
It's the superior one of all of them.
Superior.
Yeah.
It was sensational.
It's definitely 2099. I don't know how to. I was gonna say 2099. I was like,
So close.
it's so futuristic. I don't know. What's
So
Spider-Man? What's Spider-Man again?
what?
Thing?
There's a Scarlet Spider.
There's it's.
We sat next to a Scarlet Spider.
Did we really?
Yeah, that was the guy that was trying to you guys are sitting in our seats.
Oh, yeah.
So the way we're gonna format this is, we're gonna have Nick, Rene, Mandy, and Andie talk for the first 45 minutes to an hour, and it's gonna be their opinion. Then I'm gonna chime in the last 30 to 45 minutes and give you guys what I think about it, just so that way we're not all jumbling and fumbling around all over the place with 5 different voices and getting everyone confused. We're gonna stick with our 4-person formula at first, get you guys comfortable, get you guys,
Yes.
acquainted with everything, and then I'll chime in, and that way, we get the show going.
If
All
they
right.
didn't leave, they did.
We did left now.
So
And
I'm
if
gonna
they
be
stayed, and if they stayed,
all right.
I
Nick,
don't want
Rene,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna behave yourselves because I'm gonna be doing behave yourselves. Okay.
wait, hold on.
What?
This guy over here. Now that's the troublemaker over there. I'm a professional.
You're a good boy?
I say it every single time. I'm a good boy. I'm waiting for my pats later.
So I'm gonna be production managing this entire podcast to make sure that we all stay on track. And I'm also gonna be the researcher. So
Yes.
Can you also be time manager as well?
yes, I'm being time manager. So
it in
I got
line.
everything. I got you guys. We're already 3 minutes into the show, guys.
Nice.
All right.
I think. Okay, so just as a preference,
Yeah.
if you have not seen
Of course, yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home,
Go away.
Yeah, by the time this
Go
episode
away.
goes
No,
out.
no. Don't go away. Pause the video. Go watch Spider-Man. Then come back.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you want, and you've done crying, then you can come back because it got rough. It got rough in Spider-Man.
All right. So thank you for that little preface, Nick.
Yes. Just
And-
before I didn't want to just be like, oh yeah, this happened, and then and then people
Yeah,
get mad.
obviously.
Captain America came back.
He's on the moon.
The moon fell. What?
So what you don't know is Captain America's been into that shield on the Statue of Liberty this whole time.
Oh, yeah.
That's his home base.
That's his new home.
Yeah.
That's his new home.
All right. So with that said, I'm gonna let you guys, all 4 of you guys, take control. And with a snap, I am.
Where'd he go? Hello?
Since Brian's gone.
He's right there.
Oh.
Jesus, magic isn't real. Anyway, no, but Spider-Man No Way Home was. I personally loved it. I think it definitely ranks on at least top 3 to top 2 of my MCU movies. I enjoyed the entire movie. It is a 2.5 hour spectacle.
Yes.
It is a long movie, almost as long as Infinity War, and also as long as the Endgame.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think about, because those movies at certain points do feel long.
Yeah.
They do feel long. I did not feel the length of this movie. I felt like it was well paced. The beginning was a little bit long. It had a little to like start up.
Yeah.
But after that, and as soon as you got the Sinister Six, I feel like that was when the movie really took off, and that's when the movie did really well.
It flowed really well.
Yeah.
I had a problem with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I felt like it was very choppy and it didn't flow, but this one flowed, and I was stuck on the screen. Usually I get distracted in a movie theater because people are moving around, but I kept my eyes on the screen the whole entire time, which I was surprised. It just flowed so well.
Do you get distracted in movies often?
Yes.
Yeah,
If the screen doesn't, if whatever's playing in front of me doesn't catch my attention right away, I'm going to be looking around the whole entire time.
We were watching. It was one time that happened to her where we were about to watch the new Child's Play movie.
Yes.
And in the movie theater, you remember, she was freaking out because there was a guy.
It was
that
after
had
the shooting.
Yeah. And
Wait, what?
Okay. Remember the big shootings at the movie theaters?
Yeah.
We went to go see the new Child's Play couple months after that.
Yeah.
There was this guy in the very front row, and he kept getting up and going to the corner and pulling the screen to the side. And then he had a bag and didn't have the bag. Had the bag. I kept telling Rene, I'm going to get up and go tell somebody. He was freaking me. He didn't do anything. He was charging his phone behind the screen.
Oh.
he had his phone plugged in.
But he kept
was
checking
just
it
acting
throughout the movie.
sus.
Yeah, I couldn't enjoy the movie. I got so distracted.
In all fairness, I remember when, totally off topic, I remember when that did happen, because I was actually inside of a screening of The Dark Knight when that happened.
Oh, yeah,
and the
that's
cops
right.
and the cops did come in, which is interesting because we were in the back row and we saw police walk in, and then they were looking around, kind of trying to see what was going on, and they walked back out. We were like, "What the heck just happened? Like, why are the cops
Yeah.
Oh
here?"
my gosh, I completely forgot about that. Was it in
Sorry
Colorado?
to bring that up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it was in Colorado. Was it?
No, it was Colorado.
It was in Colorado. I think it was
I
either in
think so.
Colorado or Connecticut. I don't remember
Yeah.
which. But anyway, that's besides the point. Andy, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was amazing. I think, oh my gosh, what a time to live, to be able to like, who would have thought that we would have gotten the movie that we got? Right. I was very satisfied by it. I think it tied up a lot of ends from,
Yes.
The
and
Sonyverse.
yes,
The Sonyverse of
Big time.
movies, yeah.
what a great tribute, and I'm very excited to see what happens next. I don't know how much I know we're kind of starting it off. I'm sure we'll get more in
Yeah.
depth with it, but I loved it. I would watch. I rarely say this about movies. I would watch this movie again. It's great.
I think we all were in consensus when we were all getting up from the movie after we saw the final. There's 2 end credit scenes, in case people don't know yet. If you haven't seen it yet, stay after the after the first set of credits, and then also the second set of credits, because there is 2 after credit scenes.
Yeah.
Well, more of an after credit scene and then a trailer at the very end. So go check those out. But the main thing was that I think we were all in consensus when we left of going, oh, we need to watch this movie again.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
And I even told Rene, I was like, I can't wait till this comes out on Disney Plus, because
If it does.
it's gonna come out on Disney
Yeah.
Plus. Yeah.
Well, what
'cause-
about the other 2 Spider-Man movies? They're nowhere to be streaming.
Are they?
That's true.
No,
They're
but
not on. They're
They're
not
on
on
Disney
Disney.
Plus.
They are not.
If it's not on Disney Plus, I have to find a place to watch it.
Check. Yeah, we have a
If
checker
not-
right now.
If not, I will watch. No, they should be on Disney Plus.
They're
No,
not.
okay,
All right,
no.
so I'm
Spider-Man
gonna chime
1
in
and
for a
2.
second.
Yeah.
There was a rumor. I came back from the future. There's a rumor where Sony and Netflix have made an agreement to stream the first 5 movies on their platform closer
Okay.
to 2022. And then I think Disney has a deal with Sony where they're going to be streaming the Homecoming movies somewhere in 2022 as well.
Okay.
So it's Netflix for the first
And
5,
then the home movies.
and then the home movies on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they already did it for Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Because Shang-Chi was up on Disney Plus about 3 months after.
Yeah.
And then after, it was up 3 months after, then you could buy it. And that was when you could buy it. Then another 3 months after that, then you could just watch it. It was like 6 months later, then you could really watch the movie for free.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I just really want to watch this at home by myself. Just because I did feel don't get me wrong, I love an audience. I love watching movies with audiences, the energy that you get from them, the reactions that you're getting. You know, you can really see if like jokes are hitting with you or if it's just, oh, I thought that was funny myself.
Or the very intense moments where you could hear a pin drop.
Yes.
Those are great too.
Yeah, those are great too. But the only problem with that is that because everyone's so excited and it's the first time seeing it,
Right.
you miss things. Because
there was dialogue we missed when certain characters were revealed.
Yes.
They were talking after.
We were either clapping, screaming, or
cheering.
laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear some people saying "Shut up! I can't hear the movie." And right after people showed up, just so that we can get that off the way. There was a grand total of 7 people from the Sonyverse that actually did show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. We had Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. Jamie Foxx as what was it? As
Electro, Max Dillon.
And then we also, what were the other, who were the 2 from 3 and also from Amazing
Sandman.
Spider-Man 1? Yes, so
Sandman.
Sandman, I forget his name. I forget the actor's name, though.
Oh, yeah.
And then also in The Amazing Spider-Man
The
1.
Lizard.
Oh, the
Kurt
lizard.
Connors.
Yeah, the person who plays Kurt Connors. I don't remember.
His name's
The
Ray,
reptile.
Rise, or Ray something.
Ray, I think it's Ray something. It's something along those lines. All I know is they're really good actors. They're really great actors. And then not only them, but also we do get, once again, guys, what? Sorry.
The actor that plays Flint and the actor that plays Kurt, I don't think they came back. I think they were just
Generated?
Do you think there was
generated.
CGI?
It
generated?
seemed like that.
So I'm on the Wikipedia page for the cast.
I mean they have dialogue.
They do have dialogue, but I think they're voiced by different people.
If they're if they're voiced
You
by
know
different
what?
people, dude, that they were close. 'Cause
You know
it
what?
sounded
It
just
does
like them.
when Kurt Connors when the lizard goes back to Kurt Connors, it does look like already footage from Amazing Spider-Man.
Could be.
It looked
did-
a little
it-
bit CGI after.
It did look familiar.
You know what? It could be.
Yeah.
Can you look up those movies to see who those actors are? Because they did use their image.
I'm
at the
gonna.
very end.
I'll
they
be
did-
back. I'm gonna
yeah,
look
they
this
did
up
use
right
their
now.
likeness.
If anything, they did use their likeness. But besides that, also, guys, if you have not seen Amazing Spider-Man, you really don't want us to spoil anything for you. Please don't.
You have to see it.
Yeah, please pause it right now because
Yeah.
I am gonna say Andrew Garfield and
Tobey
Tobey
Maguire.
Maguire do
They
come
do
back.
show us.
Yes.
Oh man.
What was it? So we do get our trio of Spider-Men. We also do get our first look at a Netflix character inside of the MCU.
Yes.
Yes.
We finally
That
get
was
our
exciting.
what was it? Our Daredevil.
A Daredevil.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interacting with Marvel movie characters.
Yeah, and he's in Queens,
Yep.
which is like a hop stone throw away from Hell's
So
Kitchen.
good. He looks good too. He did.
And
Yeah.
He
He looked
does.
good. I was like, dang. Like,
He looks really good. I
Yeah.
love the scene where when the brick flies
Yep.
through, he
And
catches
catches
it.
Well, I love how Peter was about to.
His hand
Yeah.
was right here, and he caught it like
Yeah.
that.
He's
And I
just
love his.
looking at him like, how did you do that?
I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah.
I really liked that line. I do like the fact that even though we have Tobey Maguire, we also have Andrew Garfield. They do not show up for almost 2 hours.
Yes, they show
That
up in the
movie-
last half hour.
That movie, they don't show up for maybe the last half hour, 45 minutes. I
But
think.
that's the thing too, is that like I was a little afraid that was gonna happen, but the way that this movie was written and the way that the flow was, it felt really good too. That's the
Yes.
thing,
Yeah.
especially how certain things happened in the movie that we'll get into later.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
it felt very like that was very natural. You know, I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay, I see what they were trying to do.
I'm glad that the Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield didn't come so early in the movie because then you still focus on Tom Holland's Spider-Man and
Yeah.
his struggles and what he's going.
'Cause this is
It's
his
that
movie.
whole build
Yeah.
up, and then they're there and they're there to help. That's what I
Yeah.
liked.
I do like the idea of them showing up when Spider-Man thinks he has absolutely no allies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he thinks he has utterly failed. Aunt May has died.
Spoiler.
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 There's no
No.
other way I can go about this.
Yeah.
If we're gonna talk
No,
about
that's the
movie.
thing. People know,
We're
but at this
past that
point,
now.
we're
Well,
past.
I've said it enough times.
Yeah.
I feel like so.
Okay.
Yes, Aunt May does die. Green Goblin finishes the job
Oh,
this time. Because
Man.
inside, anybody who's seen the original Spider-Man movie, he bombs Aunt May's house the first time.
Right before bed.
Yeah, right before bed, which is a great scene. It's so great when she's giving the Lord's Prayer.
Oh yeah.
He's like over here and finish it. It's so great. But yeah, he finally he really does do something so heinous to really scar Spider-Man.
Yeah. He is he's very vicious in this movie, which I love, and William Dafoe did a good job of like adding on another layer of crazy in this movie.
Yes.
For Green Goblin. And I loved it. You know, he set him up since the beginning, like, oh yeah, you know, like he was acting like he was Norman, you know,
Yeah.
the whole time and stuff like that. And it was really interesting just to see how just brutal he was more in this one, and just the way he fought too was even amazing.
It was
It's
very
been that-
gruesome.
That's why this is like, as far as right now, is like my favorite Spider-Man movie, because I get to see the fight of between Spider-Man and Green Goblin since I've been wanting to see it since a kid. You know, just like how very choreographed and stuff like that.
I do feel that the choreography of the fights were better in this movie than they were in the original Sam Raimi and also inside of the Amazing Spider-Man. I enjoy the fights more.
Okay, so quick little insert. You guys were asking about.
The villains, the two villains.
It's Ray's Infants
Ray's
as the
Infants,
lizard, or Kurt Connors. It looks like he voiced the lizard, and it doesn't say. This is according to Inverse.com. This is like the list of characters that popped into the movie. It looks like he voiced the lizard, and then they just use a bunch of B-roll footage from Amazing Spider-Man 1.
For Kurt Connors.
And then they did the same thing with Thomas Hayden Church, who is the actor that played Sandman.
Yes.
His was all voice, and they just recycled scenes from
Okay.
Spider-Man 3.
Oh,
That
okay.
makes-
Yeah, because
that
the
makes
the
sense.
sequence of events, when he goes from being Sandman to...
It was the exact same way that he
was
looked when
just
he was
invert.
getting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just
It
in
looked
reverse.
familiar.
Okay.
I just wasn't too sure.
I think what they might have done is reversed the effects because in the original movie, that's the way he looks when he starts turning into sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what they just did is they just reversed the effects
Yeah.
and then
That
just
makes
turned him
sense.
back
That
into
saves
human.
money right there.
I think that,
It
and
does.
then also, so that way, early production, they didn't want to, because you have to shoot the final fight first.
Yeah.
As of when it comes to certain movies and stuff, because that's where your biggest budget is. So I think to avoid people seeing the sets and all the actors on set, they
Also,
probably had
yeah,
to go that
scheduling
route.
conflicts as well.
Yeah, because they were doing it during COVID, right?
They were doing this
Yeah,
during COVID.
so they probably couldn't do it during the time.
Well, also, those are also the most CGI'd characters. So
I
that
kind of
also
liked how they
makes
kept them
sense.
CGI away, because I didn't like it at first, but then when the movie was going on, I was like, okay, I kind of like how
They looked
Sandman.
really good.
Yeah, Sandman was still in sand, and
Well, because in the original Spider-Man 3, he keeps going from his human form to his sand form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over and over again. I did like this a little bit better, where he's just continuously in sand and like he
Yeah.
can't really control. That was like a huge message in this movie of the villains are. They're not all bad people. Like they're not just like they're villains and they're one note and they're just evil. It was they're villains and they're sick.
Yeah, they have their backstory, and I think it was, if you were to look back and watch, which I would highly suggest. I think I was so happy that I got to watch the movies, and I did it just because I wanted to get this backstories to like the villains, to kind of see and put them in place in this new, in No Way Home. And you kind of do get that backstory in the beginning. I feel like it's very important for you to watch those movies to kind of see where they came from.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because in the movie, they do try to fix them. And those were exactly the problems that you do see in the original films as to why they are in the state that they are.
Yeah, I do like that. I love the idea of certain people being okay. Like Sandman didn't want to hurt Peter in 3. And I love the idea that when he shows up at first, he thinks he's Peter Parker. He thinks
Yeah.
he's
His
Peter
Peter
Parker.
And he trusts
Yeah.
him.
And he trusts
helps
him. Yeah, and he even helps him out against Electro. And he doesn't go against him until he puts him into the Sanctum Sanctorum, until he shoots him, and until he shoots Electro, because he noticed like, oh, I shot him with something, and then he just vanished, and he's like, what did you do?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? And he thought, you're legitimately trying to help me. And it went from like back and forth, and that was really interesting. I liked seeing these villains and seeing their connections to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Alfred Molina finally getting, he already got it inside of his movie,
Yeah.
but getting that role reversal of going villain to hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
That was
he is a
great.
good man.
Yeah,
he was a good man.
He wasn't evil when he.
Yeah,
he was just a
he's
scientist.
insane. He's insane.
Yeah.
He just went insane with all the voices of the arms in his head.
The
Definitely.
arms were telling him what to do.
Yes,
That's what
they
made
were in
him a
control.
villain. Yeah.
And they also used the same cue that Sam Raimi did, which is really awesome, and I love it so much because inside of the Sam Raimi movies, when the arms are in control, the arms are red.
Yes.
The light on the arms. And then when he's in control, they turn white. And they did the same thing in the Sam Raimi movies, and they just moved it over here. I thought that was so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small details are
little
amazing.
little tiny details I thought was really awesome. I do like when they're talking about like how exactly to defeat each one.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're sciencing it out, and then what was it? Andrew Garfield goes like, "Oh, I've already made this before. I'll be
I
right."
could do it again.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
We already figured out how to do this. I'll just be right back. Let me go make that real quick, and I'll be back. But overall, I feel like the movie. How did you guys think about the pacing of this movie? Did you guys think that because me personally, I thought the beginning was a little bit. It dragged
felt
for a little bit.
Dragged. I did get a little distracted in the beginning. I did look over at Rene a couple more times than I did throughout the rest of the movie.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, the whole movie together was amazing.
Right.
The pace was good. I liked how they went from one scene to another. It felt awkward when they moved into Happy's place. To me,
Yes.
it did just a little bit because it was just a small.
What made that feel awkward for you?
I don't know. The space was too small for me, I guess. It was smaller than their first apartment.
Ironically, it was bigger.
To me, it felt smaller. Because Happy was sharing his room and Aunt May was in one room.
It's a one bedroom apartment in New
It's
York.
a
I'm pretty-
bachelor's
Yeah.
pad.
It's a
Yeah.
bachelor
It's a
pad.
bachelor's pad,
Yeah, I
basically.
mean, because technically, because there's like a laundry room in one room, then a kitchen.
Because
and a
we
living
never got
room.
to see where Aunt May
You know-
slept. We only. Because,
Happy's room. Yeah.
yeah. But no, Peter told MJ that Happy gave up his room for me, but he was sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We never got to see Happy's room.
Yeah.
Like where MJ was sleep. I mean, where
Aunt
Aunt
May.
May was
Yeah.
sleeping. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I can kind of see it, but it is an open floor plan. So I guess for me that kind of felt big. Whereas like Peter's apartment has like a lot of like corners
Yeah, true.
to it, and it feel because it does kind of feel a little more claustrophobic because you do have the hallways, you have all these other things, you have the door passages that goes through, and everything else. So for me that felt a little smaller, whereas this one was like a wider, more open. It was an open floor plan.
Yeah, yeah.
It's basically what it was. What about you, Andy? What do you think?
I thought so. Yes, honestly, it did feel a little bit jumbled up in the beginning, but I think that's because that's how it was meant to feel. Like that's what Peter was feeling like.
Right.
Everything was just happening all at once. His identity just got revealed. There was a lot of chaos in that sense. He was dealing with with reporters, with the media, with school, with all that scene where everybody just raised up their phones and started recording. Oh my god,
as he
that
walked
is
down the hallway?
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what the heck. But the progression, I thought it went pretty smoothly. There was one little thing, and I was talking about it with Bryan, I think you guys too, with Mandy and Rene on our way home, that it felt a little weird in the part when, from the transition of when Aunt May had just passed, and then after that happens, then Toby and Andrew make their appearance, and it seems it's kind of comedic, but of course that's kind of like we were expecting. But there's a reason why, like they came in at the right time, because afterwards that's when they go and console Tom's
Peter.
Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Peter. Yeah.
And I do get what you mean of it needed of they went from this like really serious
Yeah, it
fight
was
scene.
like where the whole audience was dead silent.
Everybody was very silent during Aunt May's death, but I do feel that there needed the amount of levity that came with seeing the original Spider-Man. it needed to happen because we needed
Right.
to. It was like we gut punched you, and now we're trying to cheer you up from it. We're trying to give you a lollipop so that way you feel a little bit better about getting hit in the crotch.
And I think this death with Aunt May hit a little harder because she got up and was making sure Peter was okay. She was okay. We all thought she was okay.
Yeah.
And then she just slowly started going, and we're just like, wait a minute, hold on, you were okay just a second ago. She's like, I just need to catch my breath.
Yeah.
And it's scary because my mom, we've had troubles with her, and when she needs to catch her breath, it could be really serious. So that hit me hard.
Yeah.
I did tear up. I didn't cry as much as I'll explain later at that part, but I teared up because it just reminded me of my own mom.
Right. The worst thing about it was that was actually spoiled for me. Somebody actually told me that Aunt May was going to pass inside of the movie. I didn't know how, but I did know that she was going to pass in the movie. So I was kind of ready for it. So I didn't have that reassurance of when she gets back up. I was like, not only that, but also I get Spider-Man gets hit all over the place, but also he has a healing factor. She got hit by like a truck. And got up to talk about it. I was like, okay,
She's like,
unless,
I'm good.
unless this became Looney Tunes,
She jumped up. She was like,
she has massive internal bleeding. And she's only minutes away from death.
That's basically what it is.
In all fairness, I actually thought what was going to happen was the glider scene from 1.
Oh yeah, where it would have stabbed her.
Where it would have stabbed through her, and then I thought that would have been more gruesome.
So
though.
wait, was it a truck or was it?
It was the
wasn't
glider.
his glider.
It was the
glider. Okay.
But he got.
You said truck, and I was like,
I got hit by a truck.
I mean, she got hit by the equivalency of a truck. It's a rocket-powered glider.
I get you now.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily get up and walk around and be fine after getting hit by it.
She looked totally fine. There was no evidence of bleeding until she went down to catch her breath. And then,
Right.
Yeah, she was wobbly though. She was trying to
I mean,
stand
of
up.
course, you just got hit.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually really sad for Happy. Of all people, I'm actually more sad about Happy because.
Heartbroken.
Well,
but they were broken up, so he was already grieving of the breakup.
But that's not necessarily why I'm sad about Happy. I'm more upset because not only has Happy lost his best friend, he's also lost his girlfriend. You know, breakup or not, I mean
they were together.
They were close.
They were together, and the breakup was fresh. Like it was maybe a couple of months, and everything else, and they were still living with him. So, but I also do feel that Happy kind of saw Peter as like a son figure. He really did take care of Peter like he was a son, and the fact that he did lose that is kind of rough. Like Happy only has really Pepper Potts and Morgan.
Yeah,
That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah, and it's really rough. Like Happy's gonna mourn for a while, and I don't know if you're going to see Jon Favreau inside of another MCU movie for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
Because what purpose does he have now?
We could see him in not in the movie, but in that Armor Wars.
That's the only thing I can think of is and he has Rhodey. He does have Rhodey.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, he does have Rhodey.
He has Rhodey. Never mind.
He could be in Armor Wars. That's the thing.
I would love to see Happy Hogan in an armor. I would love to see
in
him.
armor.
I want him to. I would love to see him in an Iron Man suit.
He'll make
That
it
would be
happen.
That would be cool.
That would be so cool. You know how much payoff that would be, especially if it was like a boxer, like if it was like a boxer suit or something like that, or if it was a like a suit that was specifically made for him. And because Tony made suits for everybody,
Yeah.
you know,
He probably made one for
he
him.
probably
too.
made one for
As
Happy.
in an emergency. You
Yeah,
know.
on the off chance that there was an emergency and Happy Hogan needed a suit, I think that would be sick. I would love that. Now it needs to happen. It needs to happen. But yeah. Besides that, what about you, Rene? How did you feel about the movie altogether?
I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really good. I mean, obviously, so the pacing for me was I didn't mind the beginning because, like Andy said, it was very chaotic for Peter's, life at the time, and we were getting that perspective and stuff like that. I loved, if anything, that how they formed the years of for Peter Parker and Norman's hatred in a matter of minutes. Like they just formed that arch nemesis
Oh
way.
yeah.
And just
Immediately
yeah,
he was
and
like,
you feel it too.
I'm gonna kill that dude.
Yeah.
I
I want
want,
to kill
I
him.
want
Yeah.
to kill him.
I want to kill
Yeah.
him. He's dead. He's dead to me. He's dead.
Yeah.
He's gone.
I loved how they just automatically formed that hatred. It was, and then it started out like how it was in the comic books. Peter trusted Norman. He saw some, like he could relate with him and stuff like that. They're both scientists and stuff. And even Norman was very admiring this Peter because of how smart he was and how quick-minded he was as well too.
Yeah, because I think what did he say? He said, if you don't mind the commute to a different universe, I'll give you a job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did kind of get, it hit me a little bit where my feels were when Norman was first inside of Feast, and he goes, somebody is living in my penthouse. Oscorp is gone.
Yeah.
And my son and I don't know who.
I don't know where my son is. Yeah.
And also the fact that he doesn't know that Harry's dead.
Yeah.
Which is because Harry dies in 3.
Yeah.
So the only person that would actually know that is Falco. I mean, is Sandman.
Yeah.
Sandman would know.
Sandman would know that
because Sandman was there when Harry died.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of rough because I'm kind of surprised they didn't come up, but also there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
So
it might have come up and we might have missed it too. Because
I mean, there was a lot of
Sandman was recalling a lot of stuff and telling them when they were.
He was for the villain that was in the 3rd one to very much go like, oh well, this is what happened after you died.
You died
and
first,
then this is how
and
you
then
died.
you died after. Yeah.
And I'm still alive technically in this universe. I just love his thing because technically he went to jail. He didn't even die in his universe.
Yeah.
So I mean, in all fairness, Sandman wasn't worried. He was like, "Oh, listen, I go back to my universe. I go back to jail. That's pretty much what happens to me. You guys die. I'm fine."
Yeah.
And you could kind of see that throughout the entire thing of going like, "Oh, like where Sandman was just like, I'm like, as soon as he could send me back, I'm fine."
Yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted to go home.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't want to fight Spider-Man. He didn't want to. There was nothing to cure. He wasn't even thinking of his own cure. He just wanted to go back to his daughter.
Yeah, in which he is a huge point inside of 3. It's a really huge point. I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't come up the fact that Sandman actually is the one that kills Ben Parker.
I know. Yeah.
Because in 3 he kills he kills Uncle Ben. And then then Peter killed his partner.
I'm wondering if it's because Peter and Sandman had that talk to talk, and they kind of have already had that closure, both of them.
They did.
So there wasn't really any need to bring it back up. Not
There
really.
is.
Toby did mention it though.
Toby mentioned the fact that he killed the guy that he thought killed his Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he was trying to tell him, you have to forgive Norman. You have to forgive him for what he did.
Which we did see Toby do
Exactly.
in the 3rd one.
But the thing is that he never really brought up the fact that he forgave one of his villains. He forgave the man that killed Uncle Ben.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, where it's because to show I did what I wanted to do and I murdered the guy I thought killed Uncle Ben. And in all honesty, I murdered the wrong man. I actually killed an innocent. He was a thief and he was there when Uncle Ben died, but he didn't kill him.
Yeah.
He
was blinded by rage. He wanted to find a reason to, not a reason, but he wanted to kill.
He wanted justice.
Yeah.
Justice. But yeah, so the whole movie altogether, there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a whole lot of stuff going on in this movie. What exactly, Rene, would you say is like your top 2? Like your top two things that you loved in this movie?
So I loved obviously the final fight between Peter and Norman.
Yes.
When they're fighting at the end.
Which Peter? 1, 2, or 3?
And
no, Peter 2.
And then I
Peter
loved.
1.
I think if anything, I loved the dialogue before the fight was how they talked about their web shooters. And how it worked. Because that's something I've been waiting for.
That is a really great
They're like,
scene.
ew. It comes out of your... Is it the whole arm? Is
Yeah.
it just there? Where
Yeah.
else
Does
does
it
it come
come
out
out
of?
Does it
else?
only shoot out of your wrists?
Yeah.
Where else?
Do you
Yeah,
get
like, where
web
else does it shoot?
blockage?
I do love the idea
Yeah.
of like, do you get a web blockage? And he's like, oh, well, now that you mention it, that actually did happen to me.
They're
And he's
well,
like, an existential. He was like, how did that happen? An existential crisis. And he goes, oh my god, tell me about it. Like, I always am having existential crises all the time.
or the moment between Toby and Andrew where his back hurts.
Yes, but that's also a callback because he threw out his back in Seabiscuit.
Oh, was it Seabiscuit? Yeah.
He threw out because in between Spider-Man 1 and 2, he
yeah.
did a movie called Seabiscuit. He ended up winning an Academy Award for it, everything like that. But what ended up happening was that while he was there, he actually, I think, fractured his spine.
Yeah.
Oh,
He had to get
snap.
surgery.
Yeah, he was kicked.
I heard he almost got recasted by Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes.
Yeah.
How dare they?
That well, because Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, was the first. I think he was.
It was the first one they approached.
They approached Jake Gyllenhaal first. He passed, and then it was him and actually James Franco.
Oh.
James Franco actually
Franco
went.
did audition,
James
yeah.
Franco did audition for Spider-Man.
I could not see him.
No.
as Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Oh, can
and
you
then-
imagine that now?
Oh my
No.
god, that would have been rough.
That James
That would have been
Yeah.
rough. I'm just
he
going
would
like
not
all,
be in this movie.
I wouldn't watch it the first time. I wouldn't watch it the second time. No.
man, Spider-Man would have been canceled. That sucks. No, but what was it? But yeah, for because it's a callback to Seabiscuit because he actually did get kicked from a horse and he fractured his spine. He had
Yeah.
surgery, and they were actually questioning if whether or not he was going to be coming back for 2 because he was badly injured, and that was the reason why he didn't want to do 4 because on 2 and 3 his back was hurting him a lot from all the stunt work and from being attached to the wires and doing everything else. It really hurt him. Like he was like, I'm in enormous amounts of pain. Like my back is just killing me, and I think he still suffers from it today.
Yeah, I think that's why he doesn't do a lot of work right now.
Well, he doesn't do a lot of action work. He does a lot of like just like dialogue heavy and stuff like that. But yeah, so I did think that was interesting. Where it was like, oh yeah, we're gonna call back the fact that he threw his back and everything.
But it fit. It worked. It wasn't just some like random part. It worked out really good.
It does, and I do love the interaction. I do like the amount of time we're given with the boys. I really did enjoy the 15-20 minutes that we get of just Peter Parker hanging out with other Peters.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Their
And enjoying
bickering
each other.
reminded me of you three boys. Like the way you guys talk is the way the Parkers talk.
I was a little disappointed that I didn't get the finger point.
I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I was like, what about the
Yeah.
meme?
I was expecting the meme. In a way I'm a little disappointed it didn't show up, but also in a way I'm really happy it didn't because I would have just been like, yeah,
But the way
They did
they
that for
all
the
came
meme, that's
together was perfect.
The chemistry was great.
yes, all 3 of them are there. I mean, all 3 of them are amazing actors.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, what was it? Tobey Maguire and also Tom Holland are amazing actors.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
great. I mean, not only that, but also Tom Holland went to the Robert Downey Jr. School of Acting. Well, because when so he was doing a interview pretty recently, and he says he doesn't learn he said that Robert Downey Jr. always said that you should never overthink your lines. You should always just allow your
You're talking
body.
about the Hot Ones interview, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we saw that.
Yeah. Where he was like, "Oh, you should never really overthink your lines, and you should always be like really fresh, and just kind of allow your body and your reactions to become fresh." So he goes, I learn my lines the morning of, so that way I can react as if I'm just saying them like they're coming off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting because he learned that from Downey Jr. But that's also because Robert Downey Jr. is a genius,
Yeah.
and he can ad lib like no one's business.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like Robert Downey Jr., I feel like can ad lib probably as good as Robin Williams in a way, because I mean all of Iron Man 1 is basically an ad lib.
Yeah, they were writing the script as they were filming.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he was just like, I can just do it here and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
That's,
I'm
well,
just
no
gonna-
it was all just
wonder.
feeling. It was all
No
just feeling
wonder
for him.
Iron Man or Robert Downey Jr. is
Tony
Iron Man.
Stark, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
Tony
his
Stark.
movie.
That's
It's not. Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
his character.
Yeah, because he
To the core.
He sells that character. I mean, the fact that Tom Cruise almost got it would have been weird.
Yeah.
But
A
yeah,
really
Tom
short
Cruise was
Iron Man.
Tom
I
Cruise
don't
was
think
originally in
it'd be
Atlanta.
okay. I I don't see him as an Iron Man.
No,
I
he's
don't.
more-
Well, the problem is that we probably would have seen him as Iron Man.
No.
I don't know if that movie would have sold though,
No, it wouldn't have.
because honestly, Tom Cruise he's not an ad-libber.
No,
And
he's
that
more
move-
of he remembers his lines, but if anything, he's more of just like, but I want to do stunts.
Yeah.
So the
One-
stunt
We've
work
all
would have
seen
been
Mission
cool.
Impossible.
The stunt work
Yeah.
would have been freaking awesome.
I feel like he would collide with Marvel Studios a lot though. Like they would be like, we want you to be safe though, Tom, but I can do it. He's like, I can do this.
You know what? Honestly, I do feel what would have happened is he would have come on for Iron Man 1
Yeah.
and then would have been replaced for Iron Man 2 and 3. Kind of like Edward
Yeah,
Norton.
like as soon as they start production on Iron Man 2, they're like,
Well,
wait,
because
Tom, what are you
that was
doing?
the issue with Edward Norton early on, because while in the production for the Incredible Hulk, he wanted to be in the editing room. He wanted to like say on what exactly he wore. He just wanted a lot of control, in which
Oh,
Marvel
snaps.
is not okay with.
Yeah.
Like he was like, yeah, like this should be in the movie, this shouldn't be in the movie, and then Marvel's like, no, this is what's in the movie. You need to chill. Like we give you a script, you read it, you do this. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to edit the movie. You're not allowed to do anything like that. That's the whole reason why he got out of the contract, and that's why he was replaced by Ruffalo.
Oh.
But that's besides the point.
So
Now we're getting into a tangent.
I'm going to chime in real quick
Yeah.
because you guys are talking about stunt work. So there was a tidbit that came out, and I was confirming it on IMDb trivia. Willem Dafoe actually said that he would reprise his Green
Only if I
Goblin
were to
role.
do my own stunts.
Yeah, which we all talked about it,
Yeah.
that it was
Yeah.
like one of the best.
That was
you
one of
know,
the
Oh,
like
it was
highlights of that
great.
movie.
and
Yeah.
for his age and the way he like
He's
kind of
almost
like
60. He's 60,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
the work that he did was phenomenal. So I think it's a like if we're gonna like notice something about the stunt work and the action sequences, Willem Dafoe deserves like a pat on the back and more.
No,
But
yeah. Willem Dafoe is the quintessential Goblin.
Yes.
Yes.
He's
we've
proven that. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't from the first, if some people are like, no, he was good. He was a great Green Goblin in the Raimi ones. No, he solidified
Oh,
that
yeah.
that's his role in this new movie.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, in the Amazing Spider-Man, they have a goblin.
Yeah.
It's not great.
No.
There's technically two goblins because they do have a Norman Osborn.
With
who's-
like a goblin disease.
yeah,
He's
he has a goblin
That's
disease.
what I
Goblin
didn't
disease.
understand. I didn't like that.
I
I
didn't-
didn't like
that
the
was-
way they told that.
That was my major gripe, is that they just killed off Norman Osborn.
He didn't even become goblin.
No.
Yeah, and
He had goblin hands.
Those fingernails.
Oh,
yeah.
that was
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah, he was.
Don't you see it in
I
your
didn't
fingernails? Like, ugh.
He was
No.
very, but he was very Howard Hughes at the end, where like his nails were all like long. I mean, I don't think he was peeing in jars, but who knows? I didn't see the room, but but I of the three goblins that we have inside of the Spider-Man universe, because you have Dafoe, you then also have who's inside the Amazing Spider-Man?
Oh man, I don't know. I forgot.
don't know.
The guy from
Dane DeHaan.
Chronicle.
Is it Dane DeHaan?
Yeah,
Or is
Dane.
it
No, it's Dane DeHaan. Yeah.
Dane DeHaan, and then you also have James Franco.
James. Oh, that's right. I
Because
forgot
James
about
Franco
that.
is technically a
He
goblin.
was.
in
He was.
3.
They named him as of like marketing wise the new Goblin. They named him.
Yeah, I think he was like New Goblin or like Neo Goblin, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, something stupid. No, I think they
I was a
even-
little disappointed at the James Franco Goblin. They just made him. It's just like, oh yeah, he didn't have like a mask.
He had a surfboard.
Yeah, he has surfboard,
he's
which is,
all in black.
I mean, like, yeah, that's makes sense if it's like a younger Goblin, but he didn't have like the scary face. That's the thing,
I actually thought that was a very bold move of breaking the Goblin mask in the first 5 minutes. In the first
right?
like, 20 minutes. Of
That
the
was
movie.
actually really
Because it
interesting.
makes you think that he doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to.
He does sell it.
What-
It does
well,
sell
Like
it though.
he's trying to get control of
See,
it.
but the thing is that I feel that Norman was in control. There was a
At
moment.
some point,
There was
Yeah.
a moment when Norman was in control, because if that's the case, if like let's just say Goblin is you
Yeah.
know he's pretending to be Norman Osborn, why break the mask? Why have that argument inside of the alley? Who's he trying to fool?
I
There's
think
no
it
one
was
there.
just that point because when he saw Aunt Manny was talking, I don't think it was Norman. I think it was the Goblin taking over.
I don't
My-
know,
It was taken
or-
over that point.
or maybe he felt like he didn't need it at that point. He felt like he.
So I always felt
Yeah.
that the Goblin was recessive. It could basically the Goblin is always in control. He's always in control, but he can then push himself into the background and give Norman control.
Like the illusion of free will.
The illusion of free will
Well,
and
that's
allowing
messed up.
Norman to kind of think like he's free of the goblin, he's in complete control.
Yeah.
And in reality, the goblin is still
Is
whispering
using
to
him.
is still whispering to him, is still kind of manipulating him. And then the moment that he gets found out, that's when he takes complete control.
Yeah.
So, because if you notice, he is helping. He is very much helping. He's doing everything that he can do to help Doc Ock and everybody else. But it's not till he starts making moves against Spider-Man that's when he finally gets the Spidey sense to activate and say he's bad. He is a bad guy.
That was a wild moment when he was starting to sense it.
Yeah.
And he's walking through everybody.
Yeah, he's feeling everyone out.
He's
Yes.
trying to feel their intentions, which is
That
great.
was
Yeah.
crazy. I love that scene. That was a great scene.
I also really like the effect that they gave to him because it's very, very minor. If you're not looking for it, you probably wouldn't see it, but you can see that there are waves coming off of his head,
Yeah.
which is very reminiscent of the old,
The
Spider-Man
comic book,
comics. Yeah, the
His
very,
Spidey senses.
yeah, that's how they used to show the
His
Spidey senses.
tinkle.
Yeah.
No, okay, I have to
His
say, I
tinkle.
hate
That was
the
the
gag.
that's the only thing I think needs to stop.
I hate that gag
Somebody,
so much.
I'm really upset that none of the
None of like McGuire or yeah.
or
I call it a sense. You know,
like I've always referred to it as the Spidey sense.
Yeah.
As my Spidey sense.
I
Like nobody
tinkles.
corrected him.
I just think it's cute.
That's the thing. I'm
It's so
done.
dumb.
No, it was
It's so
funny.
dumb.
It was funny in Far From Home. I get it.
Yeah.
And I get it. It transferred over into the beginning of this film. But again, I
just call it the Spidey sense.
and
Just
the,
call it
yeah,
the
it's a
sense.
Spidey sense. Yeah.
Like
So the spider tingle is actually an ode to when he was first developed. It wasn't called the spider
Spidey
sense.
sense.
It was
Yeah.
called
Called
it was
spider
it
tingle.
was Peter's tingle, and that's why it was
Tingle.
joked around so much. So
no, that's fine.
yeah, but I think it's because you have to realize that a lot of these movies are using old school references
They
rather
are.
than the newer ones because they've never mentioned the 90s cartoon. They barely mention anything from the newer run of Spider-Man. Everything is like either the 1960s version of the cartoon or like the old cartoons, which is why we always get the different renditions of the Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man. Not the costume, the music, the intro music to the cartoon.
Yeah.
It's always different remixes rather than like anything that we know now.
Well, that's that is kind of like the off and on. I mean, I was introduced to Spider-Man through the 90s cartoon.
Same here.
That's how I was introduced to it, and it was always referred to as the Spidey sense. I imagine that people that are watching the movie probably also got introduced to it in the 90s cartoon or maybe in the cartoons or the comic books and stuff like that. I don't know if it's been called the tingle anytime soon since the 60s. But I do, but also I do feel like it is kind of like it's an inside joke, which is great.
Yeah.
But you're evolving everything else in these movies. Why not fully evolve what he calls the Spidey sense? Like, why not fully merge that over?
Well, that probably will happen in the new set of movies then, I feel like. Because
That's dumb.
like they'll finally say a spider sense, I think.
That's like that's like you having to be like 5 seasons in and then going like, yeah, now he's the Green Arrow.
Oh yeah.
That's like,
Good thing I didn't pay attention to that.
You know, I can't be 5 seasons in. He still wears a hood and he goes like, now I'm Green Arrow.
I'm Green Arrow. I have a goatee.
Yeah, never
Or
has
like
a
in
goatee.
Gotham, where it's
Yeah.
like you find Gotham, where is it? Gordon finally puts on the glasses and a mustache. Like,
Yeah, he finally grows a mustache and he's
After-
like, oh, now I'm James Gordon.
yeah, at the end of the series. Like,
Like what? Yeah, I think that I mean that's a minor gripe I have with the movie. It's a joke, whatever. It's still dumb. It does bother me.
yeah.
But besides that, Andy, what do you think? What was like your top 2 things out of the movie?
So obviously, definitely that fight at the end, that big fight, that was definitely one of them.
Yes.
Okay, in the last issue, I did say I was not a great fan of this MJ. Now I am.
I was in Dyer.
And MJ, I love Zendaya, but MJ, I didn't really like her character. In this one, I do, because I did see a lot of parallels with MJ and Tom Holland's Peter, and paralleling. Is that a word?
Yes.
We'll go with it.
With Andrew Garfield's Peter and Gwen Stacy, because those conversations that we're having, that MJ and Peter were having, were similar conversations that Andrew and Gwen Stacy were having. That whole like, I'm gonna follow you. I'll go to Boston. There's got to be crime in Boston.
Yeah,
right?
you know,
same
I
thing.
Yeah.
When Andrew and Gwen Andrew's Peter and Gwen Stacy were having a conversation about her going to London, and he was like, "Oh, I'll follow you." Like, there's got to be crime in London too, right? It was so similar, and you would see it too, where Andrew's Peter was looking in the background, and they were having that incident. It was so cute. And then, oh my God, my other favorite part was when MJ, in the battle scene, MJ falls, right, from the scaffold.
Oh, yeah.
And Andrew Garfield's Peter, or Spider-Man, redeems himself and catches her, and you see tears, and oh my
Just
God.
breaks down.
I was like, oh my God. I kind of want to cry a little bit. That was one of my favorite parts. That was great. I loved the parallels and just how, like, unfortunately, you know, what happens towards the end. It sucks, but yeah, just those parallels. And Bryan had mentioned it before to me, is that Peter never gets the girl, and it's so sad. But that was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
I feel like Andrew Garfield finally realized that I can't shoot a web at the center of her body because everything else will snap.
Yeah. You know, physics.
Because the energy has to disperse somewhere.
Yeah, especially falling so fast.
I stopped it,
Yeah.
and then the energy has to go somewhere like a neck.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I really did. I really enjoyed that scene. That is such a great scene.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was a very emotional scene of like
Yes,
him holding her, and then kind of. It's that moment of like him about to cry, and then he then realizes I'm in the middle of a fight. I can't cry. I can't cry right now.
A little interject. I loved the comparison of the three Peters. You have like
The wisecracking.
the wisecracking one, and then you have like the young one, obviously with Tom, but then you have just McGuire that's just been through so much and stuff like that.
He's the old
wise.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
he's
you
the
have
old man.
Garfield as like the weird Peter. Like he's the
He
weird
is
one.
definitely the weirder of
Yeah.
the Peters.
Yeah.
I love you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It says that right in the middle of a fight. You know,
Yeah.
like,
He's like, guys, I love you. And he's just like, thanks. You do that. I do love it, and I also really. I think it's really interesting too. I love the idea. There's a slight joke of the fact that the other movies didn't have the Avengers.
yeah.
There
That
is
was
no
really-
other heroes except for Spider-Man.
There's no Marvel characters.
There
Yeah.
are no other Marvel characters, and I loved that moment of just like, guys, I've been a part of the team. I was a member of the Avengers, and then they were like, cool. What is that?
Actually, technically, there was one Marvel character mentioned in the Tobey Maguire movies.
Yeah, it was Doctor
Strange.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange. Yeah,
It's taken.
that name is taken.
Yeah,
So,
can't call him that.
But he never met him. He never
That's
met him.
right.
He never had a
That's
reason to
true.
go to the Sanctum Sanctorum. So for all we know, he doesn't exist.
Sure.
Who knows? Maybe it's like maybe he's like a television star.
I like it,
It's a
yeah.
TV show where he's a movie star. Who knows? He plays a magician on TV. It's like Bewitched.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Plays Bewitched. Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. I want that in Multiverse of Madness. now I want that. No, but yeah, I really did like that scene. It's such a great scene. It's really
Is that a boy band?
Is that a boy band? Like, are we in a band? Are we in a band? Like oh my god, it's so great. It's so
But how supportive were they? They're like, "That's great."
yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
And they're so
I love-
excited. They're so excited about
I
it.
loved when Ned was talking to Toby and just goes like, "So, do you have a best friend?" He's
Oh my
Yeah.
god,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I had a
And
best
the-
friend,
and then he died.
and then he died in my arms after he tried to kill me.
And then you hear Garfield go, "Dude."
And I love the fact that Ned just assumes in every universe
Yeah.
he's Spider-Man's best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I swear to God, I'll never go bad on you, buddy.
What if that foreshadows something?
That's
See, now my question is that what about now that we've done? Oh, well, we'll get into that. Mandy, what do you think? What were your
After
favorite?
this, we'll get into the
after,
ending.
after that. We'll get into that because I do want to get into the end of the movie, which is changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can then get into the after credit scenes, which also changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
And kind of get into like maybe theories and stuff like that before we get Bryan back in here. So Mandy, what do you think is what was it? What were your two favorite parts of the movie?
The first one was actually towards the ending. It hurt me the most, and I did cry very hard.
Yeah.
But it's when Tobey Maguire stops Tom Holland from
Murdering.
Yeah, murdering.
Merton.
And he was just, innocently, they stopped him, stuff like that. Once the goblin stabbed him, for me, I was like, he's dead. They brought him back.
Yeah.
He's dead. I cried so hard, but that was the best part ever. And then after that, he's like, I've been stabbed before. I'm okay.
I love that scene just because when I heard that of like, oh, this isn't the first time I've been stabbed.
It's true.
I really did think about it, and I was like,
me too.
that's
I was
true.
like,
that's true. He's
Yeah.
been stabbed
He's
a
been
lot.
stabbed
a
Like,
lot.
yeah, Doc Ock stabbed him.
Yep.
Goblin stabbed him a
Yep.
couple times. Like, this guy's been stabbed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he'll be fine. I did like that. There's a scene after that where it's when Andrew Garfield is holding him, and he's just like, I'm so proud of him. You're in a lot of pain, right? Aren't you? And he's just like, so much pain. I'm just in so much pain right now.
Yeah.
Oh, what was your other one?
Oh, and then when they figured out Tobey Maguire's webs comes out of his arms, they're like, we don't have that.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Yeah,
you guys,
that
don't,
was.
you guys
that
don't
was,
have that? And he's all like,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the interaction between the three of them
That
is
was
it's the highlight.
The
It was
chemistry was
great.
amazing.
yeah, by far definitely the highlight of the movie is that chemistry that all three of them have. I love the idea that they've in every single one of their movies they haven't really fought with anybody else. So it's really funny to kind of see them trying to fight with two other Spider-Men.
Yeah.
And then they're webbing
And
each
they're
other
just,
up.
they're sloppy.
Yeah, they're
They're
sloppy.
like,
They're
hold
running.
on. We need to figure out who is
Oh, yeah.
who.
Oh, yeah. Who's
I'm
Peter, too?
one,
Yeah.
you're two, I'm three.
Yeah, I love the idea in the very beginning as they're fighting. They're going like, Peter, and they're all getting confused.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
They're all just getting really confused. I think Tom Holland shoots a web and then it clotheslines Andrew Garfield,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
just going, "Dude, we are a mess.
Yeah.
Like as a unit, we look terrible, and we need to fix it." And it's so great. I
But
just
the
love.
compromise and the way they
Yeah.
just problem solve. Look at him.
Oh, and then
Who would have thought?
when,
Not me.
but I think that also goes with Peter because in every single one of them, Peter doesn't really have an ego.
No.
Like
No.
I need to be in charge. So I like the idea of when all three of them can kind of just agree. Okay, fine, I'll be Peter 1, you be Peter 2, and I'll be Peter 3. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's do it. And like they can really problem solve on the spot, and that is very much a Peter Parker
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Andy?
Oh, I don't know. What
Sorry.
was I gonna say?
I apologize.
She
No,
was
you're
like,
fine,
she
you're
was like,
fine.
what?
Also, I forgot to mention, you mentioned all three of them. I do love that we got to see Tom Holland be a little bit more, like you see his intellectual side, which we haven't really seen.
That's
he
true.
beat Doctor Strange with math.
Yes.
He did.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
beat Doctor Strange with math, in which I was going to say is my second part, is the mirror dimension scene. I love the mirror dimension scene.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
I loved the idea of it, and I love the fact of he pops out of the mirror dimension and just goes like, I beat Doctor Strange with math!
Yeah, I'm so excited about it.
He's like so excited. And he goes, I haven't got his ring thingy. I don't know when he'll be back. And it's so interesting. I mean, it's a thing that we haven't really talked about the entire time we've been talking. Doctor Strange he's in the movie. He's in the movie. He's in a good portion of the movie. I would say maybe 30 minutes.
They treated him like they did with Iron Man in Homecoming, where he's
Very
involved.
much so.
He's involved with some of the plot, but again, he's not there until he's truly needed for the plot. Again,
Yes.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
the thing.
that's good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting the idea of he was trapped in his own mirror dimension
Yeah.
where he's in control. And also the idea that he is no longer Sorcerer Supreme.
That was a good little tidbit that they. I was kind of like, oh, that's right. Thinking in my head, like he was gone for 5 years.
He's
yeah.
been gone for 5
So
years.
they need a Sorcerer Supreme.
But that's
Yeah.
a retcon because inside of the original script for Endgame, they said Wong dusted in the original script. So I guess they changed that and they're now saying, well, we never really said it on the screen, so Wong didn't get dusted.
So
Wong has
technically,
been
okay.
Sorcerer Supreme for the last five and a half years.
And that would make sense because how he's more involved towards the end of Shang-Chi.
That does make more sense.
Yeah, that he's more
now.
involved with the Avengers stuff,
Yeah, because Wong is involved with the Avengers, but he's never really talked to like Captain Marvel and
Yeah,
Hulk.
and he's keeping contact with them.
Yeah,
and
like he's
stuff
keeping
like that.
active contact with them. So you would imagine that he is of anything.
Yeah,
he is an Avenger.
Because I can understand having him involved in the movie, but then like having him at the end credit scene, I was like, wait, wouldn't Doctor Strange be standing there next to him? If not, at least thinking.
Because Wong has always kind of been like his Alfred,
Yeah.
more or less. Like
So it makes more sense now, and I think I wasn't too sure if Shang-Chi was before COVID, if Spider-Man was supposed to come out and then Shang-Chi was supposed to come out after that.
So to give a little bit of clarification on if Wong got snapped, Nick is like 70% right in the sense that in the original script, Wong, this is according to Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom.com, like a blog site. But basically the original script is that Wong did get dusted, but we never saw him.
So it never
because it
happened.
was they were going to use it for marketing purposes, Avenge the Fallen, and they never ended up using it. So technically speaking, it's canon that he didn't get snapped.
Yeah.
yes.
That's what it is. So it was written, but it was never shown.
Since I have you on the mic, timestamp really quick, right?
Your guys are about an hour in, so you guys
We'll
have
start.
maybe like 5 minutes left.
No problem.
So we'll push along. Biggest thing that happens in this movie, Spider-Man is back to year one.
Yeah.
He's very much back to year one of Spider-Man, in order to basically solve the problem that he has caused for himself and for the the world.
Yeah.
As he rips apart the universe, he has to erase everyone's memory of him. He is no longer the Avengers don't know who he is. Everybody does not. But the thing is that people know who Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
So that means that Spider-Man is still a member of the Avengers.
So
and
his
everything else.
identity is just
But
nobody
they
knows
don't know
who that
he's
they
is.
don't-
Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting too, because I don't know if you noticed it, there is no record of Peter Parker
Yes, that's true.
because he did not graduate high school.
That's why he has to take his GED.
That's why he has to take his
Yeah.
GEDs.
I like that.
I didn't
yeah.
catch that.
No?
Okay,
Yeah.
no. I saw
There's
the
a-
GED book, but I
Oh,
thought
you
it was
didn't put
just.
it to
yeah,
the-
no. I wasn't thinking that.
There is no record of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, of Peter Parker
Peter
now.
Parker.
So
And that's
no
always
one.
been that's always been a long running trope, is that anytime they have to reset Parker, it's always has to do with like his degree. In after Dan Slott finished his run of Superior Spider-Man and what's his name started writing Amazing Spider-Man.
Nick Spencer.
Nick Spencer
Yeah.
took over for issue number 1 of
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man. They did the trope where he never completed college and never got his degree because his degree was actually copywritten work of Otto Octavius.
Yeah, when he earned his degree.
So they basically
When Otto Octavius was Peter Parker at the time.
and in the entire
So
Superior,
plagiarism, yeah.
and the entire
Okay.
Superior Spider-Man line, Parker Industries would just no, sorry, my bad. So Superior Spider-Man, he completed college, and because of that, Parker, when he got his body back, because they did the Amazing Spider-Man run again for a bit, this was still Dan Slott writing, he created Parker Industries.
Yeah.
With that ability with the ability of having to graduate college as Otto Octavius. And then when Nick Spencer took over and rebooted Amazing Spider-Man issue number 1, they retcon all of that. Technically, it's not necessarily a retcon, but they basically said that they found out that Parker didn't graduate because he plagiarized work of Otto Octavius without crediting him. And so they stripped him of his degree, and Parker Industries was dissolved, meaning that he had to restart his entire life.
Oh my
He was broke again.
Yeah, he was broke.
Okay,
Didn't
that's
have no
frustrating.
yeah.
With
Yeah.
the exception that MJ and Parker are dating again, and Kurt Connors adopts him as like a protege. So he's able to get a second chance because the Lizard is now a professor at I forget the school that he's in.
Oh, that's right. And he's as the Lizard, too.
As the Lizard, yeah.
Oh,
So-
okay.
So there's the Nick Spencer run of Amazing Spider-Man is just beautifully written of just like how to reset Parker as he calls it, back to basics.
Yeah.
Well,
And
this is exactly what this movie did.
Basically,
Yeah.
So what exactly I'm expecting to see from, because I mean, Marvel has already they announced, I think either yesterday or today, Spider-Man 4 is in development. It's already in development.
wow.
They already greenlit it. It's done. Tom Holland's already signed the contracts. He's in for another
It's
3
happening,
movies.
guys.
I did
Good.
hear though
Yeah,
Tom
I'm
Holland
excited.
is gonna take a short break of Marvel movies for the time being and focus on taking
would've-
other roles at the time.
Well, I'm imagining it's
For Uncharted.
and
Yeah.
other movies like that. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie comes out in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't imagine that it's going to be immediately, but I do see Tom Holland showing up in other Marvel properties.
I think, did you say it or someone told me it was like, yes, wouldn't be shocked if we see him in the next phase of movies.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's done in this phase.
Yeah.
And then now we're going to see him in phase 5.
You gotta think about what he essentially became at the end of the movie, which is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yes.
And
The
Phase
thing
4
that
right
Tony
now.
Stark always wanted him to be.
Exactly. And so Phase 4 is going to be focusing more on this grand multiverse expansion
Yes.
with space and the Guardians and
Yeah.
all this other stuff. So it doesn't make sense to give him a spotlight right now.
Yes.
It only makes sense to bring him back if the MCU and Kevin Feige push for a Phase 5.
Yeah.
And to answer,
Which they
to
are.
kind of do a little bit of a conversation in terms of like, oh, he's taking a break from acting and stuff like that. I think a lot of media is kind of like pushing on this fact where they're misinterpreting what he's saying, because this kind of ended up happening when Tony Stark or when Robert Downey Jr. finished Iron Man 3, where people were pushing along that fact that, oh, he's done, he's not going to be Iron Man anymore because he's only going to show up here and there for a couple movies and stuff. And then we ended up getting him in Civil War, we ended up getting him in Infinity War,
Yeah.
we ended up
He was
getting
in
him
a
in
lot.
Homecoming. Like he
Yeah.
just kept coming back. So I think what ends up happening, and you can't take this seriously, Tom Holland is the reason why we got No Way Home.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
essentially the one reason why we got a third Spider-Man movie, because if it wasn't for him, Sony and Marvel Studios would have been, they wouldn't have talked.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have gotten No Way Home. So I think one, and I'll talk about it when I chime in when it's my turn, but the media needs to shut up. They need to shut the hell up. Like, just stop. But Tom Holland is, I think he's just taking a break.
No, yeah. What I think Rene was saying, I think he's just taking a break from Marvel, not necessarily taking a break from
Acting.
or anything like that. He's going to be in a bunch of other movies. I mean, Chaos Walking was terrible, but I mean, other movies he's in should be good. But no, I can't wait to see that. I do like seeing his brand new suit. You didn't really get like a
Shiny pants. I got distracted by the pants. I didn't look at anything else.
But you know what I did notice, because we were watching Homecoming. It's his year 1 suit. It's Iron Man's suit, but he chopped it up because the same color of pants and the blue that's the original one that he gave him in Civil War, because that was inside of Homecoming. You could see that color. He's literally chopped up his past suits and formed them into this
A new
like
one.
this like makeshift suit
Oh,
because they're damaged.
Yeah.
So all of his suits are damaged.
Yeah.
So he's making a new suit out of all of his damaged suits. So because he's using the same material. So that's so interesting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's really cool, though.
He
Yeah,
always
'cause-
ends up doing that because in the Spider-Man video game, that's how he gets his white emblem Spider-Man suit. It's literally
They're mirroring a lot. Like
there's
from
a lot
the
of
Spider-Man.
inspiration.
Yeah.
So in that one, in the video game, he essentially loses his suits. He doesn't have one. So I think it's in the Otto Octavius lab. He creates his sneakered white emblem suit.
Yeah.
Out of
Okay.
out of like other suits that he already had like pieces of.
Cool.
And that's a really cool factor. And not only that, but also I love the idea of him finally fulfilling what Tony Stark wanted. I don't want you to be an Avenger. I don't want you to be dealing with aliens and magical creatures or anything like that. I just want you to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Deal with the old lady and get a churro.
Yeah.
That's all I want from you.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Also, I love you see his apartment, and it gave me flashbacks to Tobey Maguire's
Yeah.
Peter's
Yes,
apartment.
It was a
Indeed.
little bit bigger.
It's
It was
a
a
little
little
bit
bigger. Yeah.
But,
I don't know how he got money for that.
I
Yeah,
don't
who
understand.
knows?
I don't understand that part. Does he have a job? Well, we discussed that he was not doing photographs. He's the only Spider-Man that's not.
Yeah, that has not shown interest.
The answer is
in,
comic books. It's a comic book movie.
Yeah, he just gets money. Who knows? Maybe Aunt May had a trust.
But
he-
Peter doesn't exist essentially, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, where would he get this trust?
I don't know. He stole it. I don't know. It's
He could.
I
I
don't
mean, we don't
maybe
know.
He could have picked up an odd job or something, or maybe he's working in Feast or something.
What
like
if he's
that.
working at the sub place? that he went to.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he had like a stash of money somewhere.
That could
Like,
be it.
He could have got paid from Tony Stark. Like,
I also do wonder if he still has the Edith glasses.
Oh,
I thought that was
Were
taken
they
away.
destroyed?
No, they were there in the beginning of the movie. They never.
Oh yeah, because they were taking pictures of
They took
his
pictures of him.
apartment
But I
when-
thought they took every form of Stark Industry piece
No,
of
because he still had his
technology.
suit.
He still had his Iron
his-
Spider suit.
Yeah, he still had his Iron suit.
Because they also didn't know how he was controlling them. He knew that he had access.
Oh, that's
to
true.
them.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
so they
didn't-
don't know it was a glass.
They don't
No,
know it was
they
the
don't know
glasses.
that.
They just see that their glasses there. Not only that, but also they don't activate unless he's wearing them.
Authorized users.
Yeah, only authorized users could put on the glasses. So technically, he still has Edith glasses. People have just forgotten he hasn't lost all of the tech. So if he really, 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 really needed it, he still has access to Stark Industries, which would be really interesting.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people lost it, but wouldn't that mean that computers still know he's Spider-Man?
Oh, that's different. I don't know.
Would
But
Edith know
I
that he
think
is Spider-Man?
so.
to wrap it up, so we can get Bryan in here.
I know. I'm just
Oh,
throwing
I
out
know.
theories, man, because that would be interesting if like that's how the Avengers find out that he's Spider-Man, of like him walking into Avengers headquarters and they're just like, "Who are you?" And he's just like, and then he like says, "My name is Peter Parker," and like things open up and stuff like that.
That'd be
It's like-
cool. That'd be
cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
and it's like, wait, Tony designed this. How did you like how you don't know Tony? And it's like, I know Tony.
Yeah,
And that would be kind of that'd be an interesting way of kind of doing it.
that wouldn't be bad. I actually would. That'd be really interesting. But we got to. I don't know. We'll find out. Who do you think will be, to wrap it up, the next villain will be in
Craven.
Craven? We already got a disagreement. I actually agree with you, Nick.
Mephisto.
I feel like it's gonna be Craven.
Mephisto?
Yeah.
He's coming back.
Oh, yeah.
He's not dead.
It's either Craven or it's gonna be him dealing with Venom.
I feel like it's gonna be Craven, and then he's gonna like touch the symbiote, and that's
I feel that
that's happened before.
What I want him to do is end a movie with the symbiote. I want him to embrace the symbiote, to use the symbiote. That's the only way he's able to defeat Craven.
Yeah.
And then the next movie following that one.
I'm just looking at Brian's
Brian's
head.
just like,
Brian's
oh,
wrong.
you're wrong.
I see Brian doing this because the problem is that we always have this like solution of like he then deals with with Venom. He deals with it
in the next movie. Yeah.
And then, but I think that would be interesting if for a little while we do get a more aggressive Peter Parker, where he's being not controlled, but he's being manipulated and influenced by Venom, and that would also give Tom Holland something kind of fresh to play.
Yeah.
That would make sense
And
because
then-
he's a kid still. Like
Yeah.
he has no guidance anymore. He's all alone.
But I just think that for an acting perspective, if we're going into another movie and we're going into another series, I think that would be really interesting and give him something more to play with. Of like, we're going to give you're playing Peter Parker, but it's a different version of Peter Parker. He's a lot more aggressive, a lot more angsty, and he's wearing the Venom, and you're dealing with the Venom. Story, but instead of it being only one movie, because the Venom story is long, like he was wearing the Venom suit for a while, and I think that would be interesting if instead of you making it just one movie, you then extend it for a movie or two, and then that would kind of be that whole thing of Miles Morales coming in and kind of like coming to his senses of going like, this isn't Spider-Man, like this is not what Spider-Man is. In that kind of like removing the Venom suit from him, and like kind of getting him back to that kind of roots thing.
Okay.
Yes, Brian, I know you're angry. Yes,
I'm gonna start I'm gonna work from backwards all the way to like forward.
So
I'm
this is
gonna
your
start
time.
with the
Your
prediction.
time in now.
Is your
Am I
time?
allowed to come back
Come
in?
in, you're coming
Batman
in.
nerds.
Welcome.
Batman nerds.
Now mute
That-
yourself again.
Why? First
it
of
was
all, why are
nice.
you saying it like
It was
that?
nice. It was nice with you gone.
Nerds.
Now, if you guys don't already know, Brian is the biggest Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, he's the
You
second
can't
biggest
say
fan.
that
He-
because
No,
someone
yeah,
out
he's
there.
he's the
No, no,
second.
someone-
I'm the first.
I mean,
so.
Yes.
Among us.
He is definitely the most emotional Spider-Man fan I've seen.
Oh, he's passionate. I would say
He's
he's
Very
passionate.
passionate. Very
Sure.
passionate.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
So
Brian couldn't talk at the end of this.
He was
film.
I was-
unconsolable at
He
the
was
end of this movie.
crying.
I was very concerned.
I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Did I
I'm
call it?
used to
You did it 3 times, right?
I did it more than 3 times.
Oh, did
dude.
it more
I
than
cried
three?
more than 3 times. I'm gonna be honest. I'm probably gonna cry talking about this because, like, I was thinking, you guys were talking about certain points, and I was just like, oh crap, I have to hold
I
back
saw
tears.
his face.
Are you serious? I wasn't
Yeah.
looking at you. I was looking at that.
I was holding back a couple tears, but I'm gonna start with
Go
the
ahead.
predictions of like what the future could hold for Spider-Man,
Go for
and
it.
then work my way forward. So I don't think Kraven's the next villain, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the best storylines to kind of push the Parker storyline is the death of Spider-Man when Kraven kills him. Kraven's always been one of those villains that his whole purpose is to hunt the greatest prey possible, which is Spider-Man, the unkillable hero. He's tried and tried again, and he's never managed to do it. I think if you're going to kind of move away from Tom Holland and give the mantle to someone else, you know, a Miles Morales in future Spider-Man films, if the MCU still exists within the next decade, you have to kill off Tom Holland, and I think the best way to do it isn't to do it the way the Ultimate series did. It's to bring back a character that when they kill Parker, it means something, and I think Kraven is that person to do so.
In all fairness, what I do want is if they bring in a Miles, for them to have a few movies or a few interactions.
Yeah,
I do not want them
no.
to introduce and then die.
No. And you also forget that there was the Clone Saga as well with Jackal, and that's how we get, you know, the different iterations like Kane, who later becomes a Scarlet Spider after Ben Reilly takes over for a bit because he becomes Spider-Man. For the listeners that don't know, Ben Reilly is one of the clones. It's 2. It's Kane Parker and Ben Reilly.
Yeah.
Kane disappears, and then I believe he disappears, but Ben Reilly becomes Spider-Man for a bit, and then Parker comes back, then becomes the Scarlet Spider for a bit. Ben dies, and then Kane Parker takes over the Scarlet Spider mantle.
Yeah.
So you also have that possibility if you're going to be going all the way up to another 3 films with Tom Holland. You kill off that Parker, and you make Ben Reilly and Kane Parker be a thing. If you're thinking about, I mean, it's possibilities. This whole storyline, there's multiple different stories that, you know, they can like adopt from.
I just don't like the idea of a clone. I think that's dumb.
It wouldn't make sense, but if you don't want a messy timeline and you don't want to deal with the multiverse anymore because it's going to mess things up, production perspective, you just borrow from another storyline like the Clone Saga. I think it's probably the easiest thing that you could do, and one of the most fun ones. You could also do Spider Island, but Spider Island was kind of weird. It was a little bit weird. I will say that probably if we're going to get another villain for Spider-Man 4, you could do B-listed villains. You could do Rhino. You can do Boomerang. It would be fun to have a Black Cat.
I would actually
Because-
really enjoy Black Cat, since seeing as he's no longer with Mary Jane.
Exactly, because you have these different. He's got multiple love interests like throughout the entire series. Like Spider-Man he's ladies' man. He's ladies' man. Parker isn't, and Black Cat loves to mess around with Parker. Even
Now,
we've talked about it in the video games. She always does that.
Would you say that he's more of a ladies' man than Nightwing?
No.
Yeah.
Because because Nightwing tries and Spider-Man just so happens to
Excuse me.
attract.
He doesn't try. He accomplishes.
He oozes out he just oozes out sex appeal. Nightwing.
Yes.
Yeah, and
it's the
then
mohawk.
Spider-Man is literally
It's the
just kind of like, dude, I'm just
Hold on,
doing
let me-
my
Let
thing.
me grab something really quick. Go ahead. You talk. I actually have
I'm
something.
just trying to swing my way through the city, and Black Cat's like, yeah.
It's because he's got stability in the front and party in the back. That's why, man. He's got the mullet.
But I mean, there's even in recent years, probably within the last like maybe 5 to 8 years, when we talk about Spider-Man storylines, you have so many different iterations of Spider people that they could just pull off so many things. Like we think of Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales Spider-Man, Spider-Noir, Spider-Pig, because of the Spider-Verse. But people also forget that we have Spider-Woman, who, I mean, isn't as popular, but another great one that they've been using in comic book marketing. Oh, God. This is what right here.
Is that really a Nightwing?
It looks like an F boy.
It does.
Oh, dude.
Big time.
Oh, my God. How much? It's just called
collection.
Robin's One. Yeah. That's what it's called. Robin's One. He is the number one Robin. Look at that. Look at that number one Robin right there.
Can we get back to Spider-Man, please?
Hold on. First off,
I love how I come back on mic and Nick is just straight up like, it was all serious conversation
trap.
for like the first hour. I come back on mic and Nick is just straight up like, joke, banter. No.
I had no fuel. I'm sorry. I had no one to make fun of.
God. Oh, okay. Now I'm up on mic.
I
But
didn't want to make fun of them. That's rude.
God.
You
They're
better
guests.
not.
We're
They're
the
guests.
Are we done? Are you done?
No.
Silk.
Go.
Silk is another
Oh,
Spider-Woman.
character.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they use her in marketing.
Isn't Silk technically also a clone?
No,
Or
Silk.
she's her own character.
She's her own character.
Well, she was also bitten by by the same spider, wasn't
Yes.
she?
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
was Silk. It was something. She's Korean. I forget her name. It's something Moon. I forget what her actual name is.
Cindy Moon.
Thank you, Cindy Moon. She was in the same field trip as Parker when he got bit by the radioactive spider. Got bit by the same radioactive spider, and then her parents locked her up for fear of what was going to happen to her. So she was basically like in stasis for years and years and years.
terrible.
Yeah.
And the only reason Peter found out about her was because she was oozing out pheromones, and that attracted him to her. So they had like two comic book, two or three different books where they literally were just kind of like going at each other, like they were just doing it. And
Yep.
basically,
3 comic books worth?
It was like three
doing it?
issues.
It was a hentai?
They did. I mean, it was assumed that they did it, and they boinked it out
did.
a couple issues, but like
When they
Oh, the
first met,
devil's
yeah,
tingle.
when they first met, they couldn't help but basically
Make out and
make
boink
out
It was
and
her
try.
pheromones. That
yeah,
did
That's
it.
what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they had the same pheromones, but they understood that they couldn't be together because they weren't attracted to each other. It was just the pheromones.
Did she try to bite his head off?
No,
But
that was joked in the
you-
book. Yeah,
Yeah,
Really?
but you do make a good point, because I do want to see a Black Cat, because Black Cat was originally talked about inside the Amazing Spider-Man because she was set up. Inside of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, she was there. Not only that, but also I do want to see him date someone else besides Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane Watson.
well, Michelle Jones Watson,
Same thing.
Same initials.
same right? Yeah, but she said, "Oh, so something." What was the joke that she's
'Cause-
like, "Oh, don't call me Jones Watson. It's MJ Watson." That was what she said.
I'm assuming
it
it's a
was just-
father thing.
I
She,
thought it
no,
was
because she
just
says
Jones.
because she, no, 'cause
Just
she says
Jones.
yeah,
Jones
she
Watson.
says Watson, and then she goes, it's just Jones. I'm assuming Watson's her dad's name.
Oh, probably, yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think there's just a lot to anticipate within the next couple of years. If we don't get another Spider-Man movie for the next like 3 to 4 years, I'm fine with that. Let Tom Holland age and have him be a more developed Spider-Man. Let him go through that process, where
Yeah.
he is he's in a college. It's not his dream college. He's not going to MIT, but he's definitely going to like a New York Institute of Science or something like that. He probably has some sort of internship somewhere, and he's trying to develop he's trying to balance out the life of Peter Parker scientist and Spider-Man, and it's still not working for
Yeah,
him.
I do want to see him become an adult. I do want to see him with a Miles Morales as a mentor, of kind of like changing that role of what was it, from the mentee to the mentor.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I honestly wouldn't care if Miles Morales was brought into it via multiverse. I know that's how most people know, but there's other iterations in which he exists in that universe, and he's just developed differently. Again, I'm on a reference to Spider-Man video game. We see Miles Morales in Spider-Man, and he is developed in that universe, not pulled from another universe.
It was another spider, wasn't there?
It was another spider that was
it
developed differently. That's why he has the different abilities. He still has spider sense, can wall crawl, all those
but he-
things.
that's why he also has like the electric shock,
The
and
stinger,
stuff like that.
yeah. So,
Venom.
you guys reviewed the whole movie, so there's really no point for me to review it. But I'm just gonna say this.
Sorry.
I mean,
no,
if
you're
no,
good.
you should just
Well,
say your
one
own
thing-
your
one
own
thing-
opinion.
I'm gonna be talking more about.
There was one thing that we didn't mention was, I think one of the biggest themes of the movie was the whole, the speech that Aunt May gave Peter.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Because
yeah.
that event of her dying because of the actions that Peter took and the consequences that he has to deal with now.
She was
has
his
now, yeah. So I mean, you can.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm gonna do. Is I think for the next like 20 minutes, I'm gonna talk about this movie as like a fan of Spider-Man, because you and I had a conversation, just the two of us, about like what this movie meant. And I'm going to stick to this. I'm going to start off by saying that this movie is the best superhero movie ever made. I can confidently say that 100%. And I don't care if people come at me and say like, "Oh, but the Dark Knight trilogy
I was about to say the
and all
same
this
thing.
other
I was
stuff."
about to go, like,
no.
have you
So
seen Dark Knight?
No. Yeah, okay, but let me put it to you this way. Just because it's the best movie doesn't mean that it's perfect. Because I do have an issue with the first third of this movie.
Yes.
It's a very sloppy first third.
Yeah.
Because you're dumping so much information that I kind of looked at it as like you open up a box of Legos of like 1,500 pieces and you just dump it all on the floor, and now you're just trying to follow a set of instructions. And you have to execute that story right in order for that to work. And they did. Even though it was messy, you know, the end result was magnificent. It was awesome what we got at the very end. There were a lot of misedits. I'm just going to get all the negatives out of the way. There were a lot of misedits that I noticed where I felt like they could have paid a little more attention to detail. So like when faces turn, if I'm having a conversation here and the next camera is going to pan over here, you have to naturally throw from here to here.
It's eyeline.
Eyeline
is one of the hardest things you can do.
They didn't do it. And one of them, the one edit that really got me was right after they cured Otto Octavius. Parker jumps from the balcony to the floor where they're all at. Mm-hmm. There's the cut didn't make any sense, and that caught me off guard because you can tell he just kind of jumped and then landed, and they didn't cut it well enough. And I'm like, dude, they could have done so much better. But they're like minor little cuts, and it doesn't take away from that movie. So why am I saying that this movie is the best superhero movie ever made?
Yeah, why are you wrong?
I'm not wrong. I legitimately, all jokes aside, I 100% believe that. This is what happens when you make every possible move and execute it perfectly. True. You respect the source material. You go in there and you understand, I'm going to make a massive mess because there's no way I can fit every piece and every asset in 2.5 hours. But I'm going to try my damn hardest. And they do it. How many times, and this goes out to the three of us, okay, because we're the biggest comic book readers. Sure. How many times do we come into a revival arc and complain, well, that sucked. Why couldn't they just do it this way? Why couldn't they just revise it this way?
I think because we were talking about it earlier when we were talking about Batman, the new Batman comic.
Yeah.
Where we were saying like this is a really dope comic, and then we got like 3 issues in it. We were like, what happened to that first issue?
Yeah, exactly.
Why was that first issue so good?
Or
and
even
the rest of the issues have been like really lame.
For DC readers, Flashpoint is one of the greatest arcs to come out in recent years.
Yes.
But
it brought in the New 52.
And people were split with the New 52. You had massive fans who supported the New 52, and then the opposite side was like, what the hell? Like, this isn't the Batman we know. This isn't the Flash that we know. Like, this sucks. This new revival sucks. Yes. How do you do a revival? How do you do a reboot in a movie? How do you do a reboot in 2.5 hours? You did what John Watts did here.
No, yeah. In all fairness, this movie made me very cautious and very nervous for the Flash. Mm-hmm. Because the Flash is going to attempt to do kind of the same thing. Because he's supposed to go into the Tim Burton universe. He's supposed to meet Michael Keaton. He's supposed to meet an older Batman, and he's also supposed to be introduced to a young, a Ben Affleck Batman. Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to have like some disputes and stuff like that, and movie shenanigans and everything like that. I feel like this movie did a really nice job of tipping the hat and understanding and giving face to all the characters.
You can tell that it was never afraid. It never showed fear. And I know it's kind of weird to kind of talk about it as if this was a person, but when you look at a director and writers and producers and everyone that works on a movie, there's certain points where you can tell that they're afraid to do something. And this movie never showed fear. It said, I'm full confidence. I understand the story I'm going to make. I understand the direction I'm going to go in, and I'm going to do it. And it executed it perfectly. You can complain, because I see a lot of critics are basically saying, oh, it's an 8 out of 10. Oh, they had problems here and it had problems there. That's fine. Go ahead and give its negatives, because it does have some negatives.
8 out of 10 is not that bad.
It's not bad. But you have to understand that when it comes to redoing the storyline to bring it back to some originality, you have to have this confidence, this kind of like, I'm going to grab my balls and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, and you're going to love it. And we all loved it.
It's called the Batman.
Yeah.
This movie is a movie for every generation of Spider-Man fans that grew up with different takes. And I told Andy this when we had the conversation last night. Every single one of us here on this table grew up with Spider-Man differently. Mm-hmm. We had people that grew up with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. We had people that grew up with Tobey and Andrew Garfield. We have people that grew up with the 90s Spider-Man over here that read the comic books and consumed the 90s and kind of dipped their feet here and there. And then you have someone that lived and breathed Spider-Man for years and years and years. at the end of the movie, it took every single one of us and said, y'all are back on page 1. Congrats. Because they respected Toby. They respected Andrew. They respected every little Easter egg that we all know and said, here you go. Now we're going to be restarting everything and we're all on page 1. Because you mentioned it. Dude, I'm going to get emotional. Holy crap.
You're going to make me cry.
It's going to hit me. There were so many Easter eggs, and it wasn't like Ready Player One status where it just dumped it. Right? It was Easter eggs that were respected, and it was just kind of played out in a way where it was like, oh, like, I got that. Or if you didn't, hey, that was the whole thing. When he gets pushed out of his body, the whole tingles around his head, that is an iconic comic book art that you see like in old school like Spider-Man comics.
I think you, because you said it to me too, because what was it? When Doctor Strange goes, this shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
Pushes him out.
And I think you even said too, why is that possible? And then me and you both went, it's the spider sense.
It's the because then
spider
the tingles
sense is just the spider sense is just immediately going like no.
And in Sam Raimi's run of Spider-Man and what's his name, Mark Webb, is it Mark Webb for the Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah, Mark Webb.
They all showed different viewpoints of that spider sense, and now we get John Watts' version of the spider sense, which in my opinion is probably one of the best visual methods of showing the spider sense, because we got the little tingles around his head when he got pushed out of the body, and then the in-depth analysis, which you said was one of the greatest scenes, because when he walks in the room, he's just kind of analyzing like, where is this, like, why am I having the spider sense?
He's sensing everybody's intentions,
and then all of a sudden, which was great, because in that moment I was like, I felt like I was Peter there. I was just like, where is this danger coming from? And all of a sudden right at Osborn, and you're like, no, and you understood seconds in that something was wrong and that it was Osborn.
And I love because that then leads you into Willem Dafoe's immediate transition of being like this cowardly Norman Osborn to this big dick Green Goblin.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that is what makes Willem Dafoe the quintessential Green Goblin.
Yes.
Because Green Goblin, and I don't, if anyone ever says this to me, I'm not listening to you for the rest of the day. I'm not listening to you ever again. The Goblin is not Spider-Man's Joker. By no means. Because the Joker and Batman have a different relationship than the Goblin and Spider-Man. Goblin is just a dick to be a dick.
Yeah.
I want to mess you up. I'm going to kill someone.
Yeah.
Just because I'm going to do it. Why did he take Gwen Stacy up to the bridge and drop her?
Because he could.
Because he could. Because he's the Green Goblin. Oh, but his intentions were to mess up Peter Parker. Yeah, but why? Well, because he wanted her. No, it's because he could. Because he had the ability to do so.
Yeah, because Joker is trying to prove a point.
He's trying to break him down, and
he's
Goblin is like, I'm just all-powerful Goblin.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Well, no, the Joker's main philosophy in a lot of things that he does is just that everyone is just like him. He is not the freak in the room. He's just as Heath Ledger said, he's just ahead of the curve. It only takes one bad day, and then anyone else could become me.
Yeah.
And he's always in the attempt to turn and show Batman that, yes, you are always one day away from becoming me. And all I need you to do is murder me.
Yeah.
Or break your rule. Or break some form of a rules. Things that you would never do.
And Goblin's never been that way. Goblin's never said, you are a Green Goblin. Or you're never a Goblin. It's like, you could kill me if you want. But I'm only doing this to test my limitations. How far can I go before I push your breaking point? Because I'm the most powerful villain that Spider-Man will ever face. He's just a dick to be a dick. Willem Dafoe gets that.
Yes.
And that entire fight sequence when we get him in the apartment, that was... You and I said it.
Yeah.
That is the visual representation of what we see when we read those comic books, when they're just oh my God, I cussed. Dang it. No one cussed except me.
136.
Yeah, I got it. When he just like suplexes him down into the neck, like floor by floor by floor.
Yes.
And just
Awesome.
the intensity. I want to know what John Watts told Tom Holland to get him to just act the way he did in that final sequence, and when he just kept punching Green Goblin, because that sold hard.
Yeah.
I was like, throughout that moment,
you could feel
it. Like the entire time, I'm like, yeah, go ahead, mess him up, kill him. I didn't even feel bad. I was just like, I felt that range until Toby stops him and is like, no. And then when he gets stabbed, Andie and I both clutched each other like, no. She screeched. I was like, no.
I screamed so loud.
In all fairness, I was a little upset about the stabbing.
Because he didn't die?
No, I was upset because he also has the spider sense. He should have known he was about to get stabbed.
I think there was just a connection because, again, this is comic book writing. You can't have you can't have Spider-Man be invincible and all-knowing and powerful and stuff. Like, there has to be a moment of weakness where he just kind of...
That's how you write Batman. Come on.
But I took it as Toby was paying more attention to Tom Holland
exactly.
than Green Goblin behind him.
Yeah, you have to assume that.
Yeah, that he's... You can't assume that.
Yeah, you can.
Like that. But the only thing is that the only reason I didn't like it is because of the Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
He knows Goblin the most.
And he turned his back on him.
And he turned his back on
But
Goblin.
I think it's because because that entire sequence, and again, this goes back to paying respects, and I guess I'm going to jump into all three Spider-Man. This is probably where I'm going to cry. There's moments where, you know, each Spider-Man, Andrew and Toby, have their like moments with Tom, and they kind of give how they grow. Like, they talk about how they've grown. And Toby mentioned, like, it's a small one line that he says, I've thought about it for years on how to cure Norman. And I think it was that moment where he realized that he's forgiven. Like, not that moment specifically, but in his timeline, he's forgiven Norman for what happened. And he's willing to turn his back on him to focus on what his, you know, on Tom at that moment.
From what I took that moment as was, I regret allowing Norman to die.
Mm-hmm.
Where I could have saved him.
And I'm going to save him now.
Because
and that
I'm going
connection
to get that
between Tom
redemption.
and Toby is the thing that took him away from the spider sense for a bit.
Didn't Toby stab the Goblin with the...
He did not stab him.
It,
No.
it flew into him then.
So what happened was that what was it? He's convincing Tobey Maguire that he has control over his own body. He's basically saying, like, the Goblin's gone. I just need help. Please help me. I'm begging you, please. And then what was it? And then that's the moment where you get the classic line of Godspeed, Spider-Man. And the glider pulls its things, and then it goes to stab Tobey Maguire.
But then he flips over.
He flips over it, and then the glider... Then,
so it was
and
kind
then,
of like his revenge.
Yeah.
That was his last revenge,
That
the
was- yeah,
Goblin.
exactly.
it was supposed to be his trickery, which
Yeah.
also, in hindsight, if it would have stabbed Spider-Man, he would have killed both of them. So
that was a
'Cause-
very dumb movie.
But
Yeah, it
the
was a
Goblin
very
doesn't
dumb-
care.
yeah,
He's
the
always
Goblin-
testing his limitations.
yeah, the Goblin does not care, but that is really funny when you think about, like, trajectory of, like,
How does physics work?
like how
He
like
didn't math
for-
his way out of this
Yeah,
one.
he didn't math his way out because I mean, even if he would have stabbed Peter, he would have then stabbed himself, and then they would have just been, like, you know, face to face, just
So-
like
They're like,
wow.
hey.
There's
Touching tips.
there was one thing that I always not questioned but just laughed at that part is when he gets stabbed in the part of the area he gets stabbed at.
Oh, it's just his crotch.
It's like his it's his like
It's his
right
pelvis.
it's his pelvis,
It's-
and I was just like, why that low? I'm like,
Because
it's so that way you can have him lean over.
oh, this, and he goes like, don't tell Harry.
But it's so but that was always a theme inside of the Raimi Spider-Verse. I mean, the Raimi Spider-Man movies was the most dangerous thing to all the characters was not the truth; it was the secrets you keep from each other.
Yeah, and they focused on that.
Yeah,
which
and they
brings,
would always, because it was always, don't tell, because that was the second time somebody in that movie told him, don't tell Harry. Where if you would have just told Harry, you know, the fact that his dad turned into the Green Goblin, the fact that Mary Jane was working at working as a waitress, that and everything else, Harry Osborn probably wouldn't have turned evil, and he would have understood what was going on. The fact that he didn't tell Harry Osborn that he was Spider-Man. If he would have been more honest, like Tom Holland was Ned, maybe Harry Osborn doesn't turn evil. Maybe he doesn't turn into a goblin. Maybe he turns into, what was it, Peter's man in the chair. Who knows? But it was the secrets that...
Didn't we kind of see that towards the end, though, in the third movie?
everything kind of came to a head because all the secrets were revealed now. Everybody knows what's going on, and now everyone's pissed.
Which is why I'm saying that this wraps it up pretty nicely, because both Toby and Andrew's movies ended abruptly.
Yes.
Where they just kind of were like, okay, we're going to see what happens with 4. Supposedly, Raimi was supposed to get a 4th, and it never happened. And then, Webb was supposed to also get a 3rd, and that never happened as well.
Yep.
That was also going to be Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah. And then with here, we get all the secrets being revealed, and what ends up happening is we actually get a conclusion to it. This is why I'm saying it's one of the best superhero movies ever made. And again, like with full confidence, I can actually, we're going to rewatch this movie again with John and Sarah. And I'll talk about why, again, it's the different generations of Spider-Man is so important here. But, I'm watching this movie. If I ever have a conversation with someone and they say, well, this doesn't make any sense and stuff like that. I've had superhero movies where I'm just like, well, you think it's really good, but this doesn't make any sense. My favorite is The Winter Soldier. And I've had conversations with people saying like, oh, but it's not so great because of this and that and all this other stuff. And I get stumped. Here, 100% I can look at someone in the eye and say like, okay, what's your next question? What is it about it that you don't like? Tell me about it. And then I can just go ahead and tell them my answer, why it is that it works. This movie basically ties up so many loose ends, and it knows exactly how to write itself out of situations. It wraps everything up so nicely.
The fact that it does close out not one movie,
it closes out 3 movies, 3 different franchises, 3 different timelines. Again, we talked about this. So by the time this issue comes out, John and Sarah would have already seen it. We talked about it. It sucks because you want to tell Sarah, don't watch the MCU Spider-Mans.
Yeah, because she's been watching the MCU. It's like, no, you have to watch the other one.
Has she never seen the other one?
She's seen them. I'm assuming they
By
both
time,
have seen it. John and Sarah probably seen it.
But you kind of get a refresher before you watch it. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's such a... I'm so glad I did that.
But here's the thing that I was telling Andy. Andy consumed it in a way that she wanted to consume it. Sarah's consuming it in a way that she's going to consume it. We've all consumed Spider-Man differently. We all grew up with him. There's one key point about Spider-Man that we all love about him, is that he's selfless. He understands what the greatest line ever to be said in comic books. With great power comes great responsibility. Even if you don't like Spider-Man, you know that line.
Yeah.
You 100% know that line. It is the iconic line.
Did you steal that from Spider-Man? No, because every single time you hear it in anything else, it's like, oh, you stole that from Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's the thing is that
Uncle
he's
Benny?
so impactful. So every single one of us has consumed Spider-Man differently. And what makes it great, the greatest moment for me is when all 3 Spider-Man meet for the first time. Because that wasn't a speech to develop the plot. That was a speech for the fans. That was a speech for every single person who was in that theater who grew up with Spider-Man differently. And they all talked about what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. What about him? Because when I say that all 3 movies, now that I'm older, I appreciate all 3 franchises. And I'm going to say this. Toby is a better Parker than a Spider-Man. And Andrew's a better Spider-Man than a Parker. Yeah. And Tom is both. Because my favorite, if I were to kind of go back and forth between like, what makes Toby great? He's awkward. He's that nerdy kid that doesn't fit anywhere. He is the personification of a Parker. That kid that will never fit in somewhere and that you root for when he actually accomplishes something.
Tobey Maguire is the kid you bully.
Exactly. Andrew, one of the greatest lines to ever basically say, to ever leave his lips for the Amazing Spider-Man, is the sequence in which he actually dons his suit and he shoots a web to the guy or the guy that's robbing the cars in the first Amazing Spider-Man, pulls out a knife. He's like, oh my God, a knife. Oh, what am I supposed to do? Because that's that joke. That's that kind of quirkiness that Spider-Man has to have.
My God, how did you know my weakness? Small knives.
It's so great. And so you have that. When you have all 3 Spider-Men come together, the speech they give each other, don't tell me that you know what I'm going through, Tom. They're you. They all experienced loss. That's what makes, like, for me, Spider-Man is the most relatable superhero because in more recent times I've gone through what he's gone through. When you lose a loved one and it hits you in such a different way, and Andrew Garfield's line after watching The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm going to say rewatching that sequence after my dad passed away hit so much more different because he's going through so many different emotions and people are treating him so different, and it hit me differently.
Yeah.
And when I look at Spider-Man now, you realize that certain key events in your life are going to impact you differently.
Yeah.
And that's what they delivered here. You know, you don't take, in this case, a death. You don't let that consume you. You don't let hatred basically take over every decision and every action that you're going to do in the future. Because that's what happened with Andrew. He killed Gwen and he just held his punches back. He basically stopped being Spider-Man for a bit. And with Toby...
No, he said that he stopped pulling his punches.
Yeah.
He got brutal.
Yeah,
that's what he's saying.
He basically stopped being Spider-Man, the Spider-Man that we know. And then with Toby, you know, he was in a dark place where he felt like, with Spider-Man 2, you know, he didn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. He got web blocked, essentially, is what they call it, right?
Yeah.
And so they learned from death to give rebirth again. And Tom is going through that process now. You lost your Aunt May. And Aunt May gives you the famous line, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
I sacrificed my life knowing that you did the right decision, even though it led me to my death. Because you're a good kid with a good heart, with a good mind and good intentions. And it was never your mistake that I died. This just had to happen. And instead of going through it alone, like every person, like most people, because for me, I went through my dad's death alone. Mm-hmm. As much as my family wanted to be there for me, I went through it alone a lot because I didn't want anyone near me. And Tom went through Aunt May's death, not alone, but with 3 different iterations of himself.
Well, because they all had the same feeling from Ben.
And they didn't let him go. They did not let him get lost. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of it, Tom basically says, with great power, who finishes the line? Toby. Comes great responsibility. How did you know? Uncle Ben, and then Aunt May. That was the speech that sold it to me. That was it. I took off my hat. I was just like, no, this is like a respect. This is like the sign of respect.
The thing is that what I understood from it was getting Tom Holland back to his roots, because he felt that way when he first became Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. That I have a right. If I have the power to do something, then it should be within my power to change it. Because that's what he tells Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with all the tech and with all the Avengers nonsense and all the craziness that happened inside of the Marvel
He's
universe,
starting over. He's basically just starting from square
but
one.
I feel like
in
he got
a very
lost.
Respectable man.
Yeah,
because
he got lost.
He essentially had so many people helping him out. But that, again, this is a different iteration of Spider-Man,
Right.
which goes back to it. Everyone consumes it differently, and we can't tell Sarah in this point in time right now to rewatch the original Spider-Man movies, because I'm going to guarantee you this. No, don't even feel bad, because I'll tell you this. Both John and Sarah are going to come out of that movie theater when we watch it with them on Sunday with different emotions than what we came out, because we all walked out of that theater feeling something different. Mm-hmm. Mandy cried. Rene felt heartfelt. Nick was like sold on the fact that this was such a great movie. You were just invested to the point where you felt like all your time was well spent. Mm-hmm. I was speechless to the point that I got destroyed. I've never had a movie leave me this speechless before. I was in shambles because this movie respected everything that I learned and that I adopted from Spider-Man growing up, and said, yes, this is the movie made for the fans that we know, and we want to appreciate everything that you've done to keep Spider-Man alive for so long. You know, people are always going to say that Stan Lee, but Stan Lee's favorite superhero is Spider-Man and all this stuff, and Stan Lee this and that, and they're always going to have their criticisms. But Spider-Man is one of the greatest heroes ever to be created. Because in the recent little snippet that Stan Lee basically came out, he said that Spider-Man, recently, he's learned that Spider-Man could be anyone, because he dons a suit that covers his entire face and body. We don't know if Spider-Man is white or black or Hispanic or anything. He could be anyone, which is why so many people cosplay him. Mm-hmm. He's just a kid learning to live his life and balance out his life and trying to do the right thing, even at his own expense. The end of the movie, he makes the hardest decision, which is to give up his own life to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And instead of going to Ned and MJ and basically saying, yeah, my name's Peter Parker, we used to be friends, he said, no, you know what? This is their second chance. Just like this is my second chance to restart everything. Instead of looking at Aunt May's death as a sign that I should give up what I'm doing, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to get a small apartment. I'm going to figure out who I am. And I'm going to redo my costume. This is my second year. This is my second chance to be Spider-Man.
So I have a question. What about if in the next movie it's Hobgoblin?
It could be. That's why this is why.
Because what about without the guidance of Ned and that close friendship? He goes down that path.
That is the beauty. But that is the beauty of this movie. There's so many. No theory is wrong. No assumption is wrong here. It could go in any direction, and it could be right because it tied so many plot holes in such a manner that you could be 100% right. I wouldn't be mad. As a fan, I'd be like, yeah, that'd be a good storyline. Or what if, this MJ is now irrelevant and we get Mary Jane now, Jane Watson? What if Peter starts falling in love with someone else and it's Gwen? What if, again, it's Black Cat and now he has a love affair with her? Like, there's so many possibilities with what happened here.
I think the only reason I say Ned leads because I think that would be very interesting, and without Peter Parker in his life to influence him as that, like, kind of like that straight arrow.
100%, because he's going to MIT now and he's going to develop his own mind, he's going to live his own life. You never know. But again, the theory doesn't matter. It's a fun theory, but you could be right and no one's going to ding you for that.
I actually thought that Ned Leeds and Mary Jane were going to kiss.
I thought so too.
I thought they were in a relationship at first.
The way she looked at him.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's because they're just close friends that they act that way.
Yeah. Because you don't have to be in a relationship to be friends with a woman. So that's fine. So I think that's fine.
I got to wrap it up here because we're reaching a 2-hour mark soon.
The last thing I wanted to talk about is the kind of like the next point that we're going to. We do have Doctor Strange.
If I'm going to be honest, I don't care.
Honestly, it was just a trailer.
It was just a trailer.
We already knew. We just got a little bit more insight of what might be happening.
Well, the bigger question that I wanted to know was, is this the point that we saw in Loki?
No, I think that so
the fracturing of the timelines.
This is what I'm going to say.
Because I feel like this is what we saw.
No, I'm going to say this. Okay. What we got with No Way Home should calm everyone down, and I feel like with the amount of hype and the amount of excitement that we all went through, let the movies be the way they want to be. Let Doctor Strange come and go, and we'll see what happens. Because
that's not what I'm talking about at all.
I know you're talking about like where this is going to head with Doctor Strange and everything. I'm gonna be honest. We can go ahead and predict. We can make content and stuff like that. I just don't care. I'm not invested in it because this movie just sold and wrapped. No, it doesn't matter, Nick.
Did you just tell me I don't care about making content? How dare you,
Nick?
It's our job.
If we're gonna be talking about No Way Home, dead ass, 100%. This movie just calmed so many different nerves in terms of like what's going on. We were assuming so much that Loki was going to connect with No Way Home, that WandaVision was somehow going to be here and there, and all of these different connections. Nothing happened. Everything that we mainly predicted was wrong. The only person we should be giving credit to is Andie. 100%. Because Andie said Tom Holland has not experienced the loss, and he has not learned from anything like that until this movie when Aunt May died. That was the point where Peter Parker became Spider-Man.
I'm sorry. I know Andie said that. But also, before I took my little sabbatical, I literally said Aunt May was going to die.
Because someone spoiled it to you, didn't it?
Don't bring that up.
You brought it up earlier.
I brought it up to you guys earlier, but that was spoiled for me after.
But we knew that was going to be a turning point.
That was going to be a turning point.
That's what's going to mature.
It was spoiled for me after I had already said it. But you're a monster.
Nick. Sure.
Overall,
you guys I don't want to talk to you guys.
He's just going to walk and just like, look, all people are against me. Overall, I'm going to say this. The movie is the best MCU movie to have come out overall.
Yeah.
It respects a fan base. It respects everyone that has put in time into the MCU, that has watched every show, that has supported the MCU throughout the years. It supports comic book lovers. It supports movie lovers. It supports the casual Spider-Man audiences. It unifies everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the importance of these movies. We've lost so much in, debating what's better, DC or Marvel, Batman versus Spider-Man or Superman and this and that, all this other stuff, the infighting. This unified everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're going to walk away with a message, No Way Home is the unification of everyone that loves comic books, that loves movies, that loves superhero franchises, brings them all together and says, we're going to start new, we're going to start fresh, and we're going to show you what Peter Parker is, who he is, and how he's going to develop as the People's Spider-Man.
So are you ready to have this movie and then watch Batman in a couple of months and go like, damn, that was a...
I'm not gonna compare.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie. This is a great
superhero.
superhero
Get the
movie.
same thing as with There's so many Batmans. This was really cool. I don't think we'll ever get something like this again.
No.
Where
They're not going to bring
Not
7
in our
different Batmans
lifetime.
in the
yeah,
same movie.
exactly.
No,
It's
this
so
is-
different and unique in its own way. I don't think it compares at all with what
You
Batman
shouldn't compare
does.
it. Never compare it.
They're completely
Excuse me.
different.
No, never compare it
They're
out of respect.
comparing it
completely
now.
different.
Hold on. Before everybody just chews my head off on the other side of this table, chill.
Shut up, Nick.
The
Yeah,
greatest...
That was so cute.
I'm sorry, do I have to fight 3 people now? I will do it. I have
All right,
ammo.
Goblin,
Let's do
relax,
this.
dude.
I am an agent of chaos. I will do this. No. Because the main reason I say this is because a great Batman movie is a movie that is a great movie that has Batman in it.
Yeah.
That is how you make a great Batman.
But out of respect, don't compare this movie to anything else. Just leave it as it is. That's the thing. When you say like, "Oh, how is this movie going to compete? How's Batman going to compete with this movie?" Who cares?
No.
If the
Totally
Batman,
different.
it's totally different
If
and
anything,
respect it.
Flash will compete with it.
Hold
Ooh.
on.
Because you're
hold
doing-
Who cares? Just enjoy it.
It's a superhero
right?
movie.
Leave the Spider-Man.
It's a superhero movie. It still qualifies inside of this. You cannot just say it doesn't compare.
You just want to go watch the Batman and be like, dude, this was the best Batman movie ever created. No, just
Absolutely,
leave
yes.
it.
Well,
Just,
it is. It's gonna be. Yeah.
Renee's like, I gotta disagree with you there. It is
No,
gonna be
but
great.
like
gonna
in
be
terms of,
amazing.
look, I'm
where I go
saying
like
this-
Spider-Man. Who?
I'm gonna throw away my unbiased or my biasness of like Spider-Man. I'm saying this as like someone that loves film and that appreciates good storytelling. No Way Home is that. And I don't care if there's a Batman fan who like comes in and starts chewing my head off or bringing him up and being like, "How dare you say all this stuff?" I don't care. Come at me. You guys can find me on Instagram.
No. I'm saying because as we were saying earlier, the beginning of this movie was a little choppy.
It was.
and then it led into a stronger film.
Yeah.
If anything, from what I've seen of John Watts' movie. Matt Reeves' movie. It feels like the Batman is going.
We're not
to be
talking
a
about the Batman.
is
Yeah,
going
this
to be a
is No
stronger
Way
movie.
Home.
This is
No
this
Way
is a
Home.
Spider-Man review, Nick.
No way, Batman.
I feel like people don't understand what content is.
I know.
Look, we got.
Well, I think we just have to wrap it up here.
Yeah,
now,
'cause we're
we're reaching our time limit really badly right now.
Softball up in the air.
All right, guys. So that about does it for.
It's not like we're gonna do another episode after this.
Yeah, exactly. So that about does it for issue number 78, guys. This is our final main current issue for the year.
Yeah.
Rene, Nick, and I are planning on taking a little bit of a break, so we are going to be back cataloging a couple issues. So issue 79 and 80 are going to be non-current issues, but we're going to be discussing some behind-the-scenes stuff that we're going to be working on and looking back at stuff that we've done this year. Because I think amongst the three of us, we're really proud of what we've done, how far we've gotten, how much we've done, and we want to continue this. So issue 79 and issue 80 are going to be shorter issues where we're going to be talking about the past and the future of Keeping Up with the Nerds and what you guys can expect.
And we
from
want to
us.
say between me and Andy that we are very proud of you guys.
yeah,
What
you
you
guys
guys
have
are
been doing amazing.
what are you guys continue doing? We were just talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
And we hope for nothing but the best for you guys in the new year.
Thank you. That means a lot.
2022.
Get
Whoop,
drunk.
whoop. It's gonna get real good.
Issue 81, foreshadowing.
Now
Champagne.
Let's get drunk.
But yeah, so thank you guys for everything, all the support, all the love, all the, all the comments.
Yeah, guys, make sure you guys share with all your friends. You guys are really great to listen to,
Thank you.
honestly. You
Yeah.
guys have really great
Your
chemistry.
voices are so soothing.
Yes.
Not like that. You monster.
So to wrap it up, guys, you guys can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Keeping Up With The Nerds. Go ahead and follow us there for all the up-to-date information on when we release issues and when things are going to be coming out. Follow us on our website, keepingupwiththenerds.com. That is going to be updated on a weekly basis to let you guys know when podcasts are going to be coming out, skits, videos, everything. So follow us on there. We have our content spotlight page where we highlighted all our guests, and that is the page to keep up to date with because we're going to be having some guests in the future as well. And if you guys want to know more about them and follow them, that's where you guys go. YouTube, if you guys are listening to us on our audio platforms, YouTube, Keeping Up With The Nerds, we'll be posting videos there as well as our visual representation of the podcast. And if you guys are watching us on YouTube, head on over to our audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Podbean. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, leave a review, guys.
Yeah.
With that said, are we ready to wrap up this issue?
Yeah.
Last wrap up amongst all three of us?
I was about to say,
Yes.
because you didn't say you got to make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification, and also I know that you are listening without subscribing, so please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also, you can push the button to get some notifications, or you can push the button to get all of notifications. Then you can get all of our skits and also all of our updates as soon as they come up.
There you go.
Gotta be a producer.
Todd's like 5 seconds of stuff. He's like, now I'm producer. All right, guys, are we ready? Same order as before?
Yeah.
Let's not mess this up, guys.
Yeah.
Here we go. This has been Keeping Up With The Nerds, issue number 78. My name is Bryan.
And Nick.
Renee.
Andy.
And Mandy.
Recording at Undercity Comics in Whittier, California. We want to thank everyone for listening to this issue and hope to see you all next time.